We are going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. It is August 25th at 4:45. We're at the Arvin Education Center for our regularly scheduled board meeting here in August. At this time, we need to approve our agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
Only the minutes from last month. I had made a note that we were doing a first reading of the medication policy. It was just an amendment to procedure forms, and so we didn't have to take any further action on that, so we won't need a second reading of those tonight.
Okay, very good. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the changes made by Ms. Henley, seconded by Ms. Sheffer? All those in favor? And that's 5-0. At this time, if everyone could please join our board team for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will move on to our instructional session. Ms. Harold?
Yes, first up, we have Dr. Dylan Smith, who will give us an update on teaching and learning.
I can just tell you about it. Do we have a clicker for the?
Click. A clicker?
No.
Close your eyes and imagine, if you will,
I can talk you through the. I can talk you through the slides. And
a
just,
slide deck that
we'll
has
start with. We can start with the
graphs.
wave up on the district homepage.
We'll get there.
How about this fake fall we're having, y'all?
This feels
No
nice.
doubt.
This feels really good.
I guess we'll need it for the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to start, and then I'm like, well, we're going to need it for
Yeah.
the next set.
Okay. There we go. All right, welcome, Dr. Smith. Sorry about that.
No problem. A small technical difficulty. All right, I'm going to talk with you about. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We're going to talk a little bit about summer professional development. So we have about 950 teachers in Oldham County. This summer, we brought that entire group together to do some really, really interesting professional development. We wanted to share it with the board and share it with the community because we got really positive feedback from it. So let's go our next slide. We had 3 big events that happened. Our first event was, you can see them up here, we had a content day for all of our teachers, preschool through 12th grade. We had our Ignite conference, which happened the Friday, August 1st, so about a week and a half before, 2 weeks before school started. And then our teacher onboarding program, which was the kickoff that we've done with all of our new employees. What you can see up here is just the overall ratings that our teachers gave us. If you think of our Studer data, we always look at our top 2, our top box numbers. So how many people gave us a 4 or 5 on any of our rating areas? You can see the vast majority of all of our teachers told us that this summer PD was really worth their time and really positive. Let's go forward one. So first, a shout out and a thank you to all the people that made summer PD possible. Our instructional coaches prepared a lion's share of the work for our content days. This had a lead in each of our subject areas, as well as breaking up our elementary teachers by grade level, depending on the curricular resource we were using and sort of the needs that they had shared with us. We had district administrators, we had ECS coaches, as well as some partners from OVEC and a couple of the companies that we have partnered with for curriculum, like Savas and Great Minds, that came in over the summer and worked with all of our teachers. Go to the next slide. So teacher onboarding, 3 years ago, we had 175 new teachers that were onboarded to our system. A large number of those teachers were first year, either alt certified or brand new to the profession. This last summer, or just a couple weeks back, we had 116. So the efforts that you guys have made around raising our teacher salaries and really pouring into our teachers changed the makeup of that group. So of the 116, about half of them were experienced teachers joining Oldham County. What that meant was that when we planned for our teacher onboarding, we had to differentiate so that we weren't introducing brand new teachers to what does it mean to be a teacher here in Oldham County. It was veteran teachers coming to us and understanding how we meet in PLCs and how we do the work that we do. Can move to the next slide. These are some of the focus areas that we had for teacher onboarding. We wanted people to feel welcome. We wanted them to connect with a mentor that they had at their school. And even if you were a veteran teacher, we wanted you to have a person that you could go to if you had questions or needed help, because we know that when people feel isolated, then suddenly they get disconnected from their campus and they feel less likely to stay with us. We can go one more. I gave you guys some quotes that we got in our survey feedback about how people felt about our sessions. I won't read these to you, but just know overwhelmingly people told us teacher onboarding was really positive. There was a lot of positivity and enthusiasm. They were really grateful to be here and to be joining Oldham County Schools. All right, next slide. So on our content days, our elementary teachers broke up, and the real goal here was for them to meet other teachers at their grade level on other campuses. We paired them up if they were using a similar reading curriculum. If you were a second grade teacher looking at your new PhD science curriculum, we wanted you to meet other people and create a professional network that you could go to if you had questions or if you needed resources. We put some pictures up here from both Kenwood and Crestwood where teachers got together for their content days. We also took, you can go to the next slide. We also took all of our subject area teachers, and so here you can see the Redmond room out at East. That was all of our ELA teachers across all of our secondary schools getting together and looking at the resources they were using. You see science teachers here. They got together and they built that same kind of professional network. And then these were the goals that we set out for our content PD days. It was thinking about strategies, it was building a peer network, and really just figuring out how to engage with their presenters, learn the curriculum that they were using, and then be ready for the start of the school year. And then the next slide, you'll have a couple of quotes that came to us from some people in the survey feedback that they gave to us. All right, you can go to the next slide. Our last session is what you see here on the screen. This was our Ignite conference. So 2 years ago, we started this. We had our K-5 teachers all learning a new reading resource. So this year, we brought all teachers preschool through 12th grade together at North Oldham High School. We had some community sponsors, some businesses in our community that sponsored t-shirts. The colors that you see up here are all of the school colors with the torch on their shirt. We sat them by school loosely. As you can see, we're going to work on that for next year so that the colors all perfectly match. We had some of the people from teaching and learning in the hot pink in the bottom right. That was a member of our team that said you should be visible anywhere on the campus if someone has a question. So we were the hot pink in the front. And when you go to our district website, you'll see all of the teachers doing a wave with a drone flyover. That was the same day, same event. We just had them do the wave and the drone flew over because we wanted to put that on our website. What was unique about the Ignite conference was for the first time in a long time, we had all of our teachers in one place. We let teachers give us feedback on the kinds of things they wanted to, you can go to the next slide, the kinds of things they wanted to learn about. You can see this was all driven by what teachers were passionate about and the PD they wanted to engage in. So rather than sitting and being talked at, they picked the tracks that they wanted to go and learn about, and they got to go and participate and learn the things that were going to be most beneficial to them. If you go to the next slide, this is the first year where we also adopted an app so that teachers did everything digitally. So we had 957 attendees and 161 teacher leaders and administrators that organized their sessions. They logged in all on their apps, and they used their app to go around the conference and find the rooms that they were attending. If you go one more slide, the tracks that we offered were things like this: artificial intelligence and technology, instruction, the deeper learning track, were all the work that we've done over the last couple of years around student engagement and deeper learning, classroom management for newer teachers, student belonging, leadership, and how to support special populations. The feedback that we got was that this was a super well-organized conference. They were really pleased with what they saw, and we're looking forward to next year. And we've had a few people suggest that we make it broader and invite folks from other counties to come to pay a registration fee and actually come and learn from us. We believe in Oldham County, we lead the way, and so we think this is a great way to do that. And our last one is just a couple of quotes from people that attended the conference so that you guys could see that and just know next summer, similar offering will be coming, and we'd love to have all of you come and join us.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
You might have said it. How many sessions could you go to that day?
We had 5 blocks that were each 55 minutes long.
So you could go to 5. if
You went to 5 sessions, that's right. Yeah, and it started with a kickoff with everyone together, and then you followed your path. We had 9 food trucks that came. It was a beautiful day, similar to our weather now, so folks got together in school teams. By having the shirt that was of your school's colors, you saw new teachers that you might not have known, so you could go up and actually introduce yourself to people you hadn't met yet, because they had the same color shirt that you had for your campus. Created a real sense of district community, and I think it was something that was really special.
Looks awesome.
This was the second year for that, right?
Second year, second night conference. The third will come next, it'll be August 1st.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a ton of really positive feedback about that, so
I'm glad to hear it.
congratulations on the growth with that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the hard work.
Thanks.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, and I like the idea of offering it to other districts. I was actually writing that down, and then you brought it up.
Yeah, I think in OVEC especially, when I have shared what we've done, there's the possibility that if we offered it either the day before or 2 days before, it would give our teachers a chance to run through the sessions. With registration fees, we could offer them more money for prepping their sessions. And I think it would also be a chance for us to just share what we're doing here with the greater OVEC region, because I think we have a lot of really good stuff happening that we should show other people. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next up, we have Ms. Katie Garrett that's going to give us a personnel update from Human Resources.
Hello, Ms. Garrett. How are you?
Doing well today, thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My first report to you as the personnel director, so good to see you guys today. I have, to go along with the exciting news that Dr. Smith was talking about, I have some exciting news as well. I feel like the data you're about to see is really great, and it shows that the hard work you've put into making sure teachers are, teacher salary and classified salary raises that you've given, I feel like the numbers are going to show you that that is really paying off. So if you don't mind to go to the next slide. One thing that we focused on in the personnel department when we were looking at this data recently is that the April through August window, because that is a window where many teachers, at the end of a school year might be resigning or saying that they're retiring or whatever that reason they may be leaving their role, and then that push up through August, that busy time in the personnel department, we were also doing a lot of hiring and onboarding. So we have our 2 numbers here to show you. We went back 3 years, 23, 24, 25, so that you could see the amount of new hires on the rise, specifically even just from last year having 80 new certified hires to this year having 120 new certified hires during that same window. So that's really exciting to see that we had a 50% increase in the amount of certified hires just from one season to the next, shortly after the changes you guys have made through the salary. Can you go to the next one, please? A couple slides here to show you also another really great trend, the yearly resignations being the first numbers here. So we have the light blue line for certified staff, and that first number is 184, that top dot there, and that was in 2023. And then in 2024, moving down to 171 certified staff that resigned, and that is the whole year. So that is January through December of that year. And then finally, so far this year, from January 1 until August, then that number is 85. So similar with classified, we had 176 classified resignations in the 2023 calendar year. In 2024, we had 171, but so far this year, it is 84.
Nice.
So in order to make sure, if there's any question about, okay, in the other years, did a lot of people just resign from August to December? Our next slide goes ahead and we broke it down again, to show that those same numbers, if we just stopped in August in the other years, just to see January to August for those certified, that's 167 people resigned from January to August. It was 117 in 2024 for certified, and we're still now at 85. And so for the classified numbers, 139 in 2023, 102 in 2024, and they're down to 84. So less people are leaving, more people are coming, and that's the summary of the first chunk of slides that you've seen here, which is great. The next slide for me. This also goes along with something Dr. Smith mentioned when it comes to people coming into our county who, yes, we're filling our vacant spots, which is great, but also we're filling them with teachers who are also coming in with certification that is master's degree or higher. We have, so 75% of our current staff have a master's degree or higher. We do have then another approximately 24% that have a bachelor's degree. And we do have several emergency certified or conditional teachers. We have just under 20 in our county, but also some of them, like for example, we have someone with an engineering degree teaching physics at the high school under an emergency certificate. So just because someone has an emergency certificate, it doesn't mean that they are not highly educated or highly qualified in the particular field they're working at. It does mean they have a degree in something. To have an emergency certificate, you still have a degree, but it's just showing that overall, not only are we hiring more teachers, we're keeping them, and the teachers that we have are highly qualified. One more. So last year, so I was running the data for this report last week on 8/18, and that same data had been run for last year's personnel update on 8/19. At that time last week, we had 85 open jobs, but on that same day last year, we had 150 open jobs. And that's all jobs in our county. So that could be anything from, that would include bus drivers and classroom assistants and secretaries and any teaching job, anything, okay? Of those 85 that I was referring to from last week, only 11 of them are for certified teachers. But in those roles, we also have some schools that have a really strong relationship with a retiree or a long-term sub who's really like part of their school family already. So those 11 jobs are also have some strong candidates that are kind of holding the fort down until we can find a qualified replacement for those jobs that are kind of waiting for someone to come up. 223 active subs ready to go in the system. So a lot of people in our buildings, a lot of people who care for our students and who are working hard every day. So the part, though, that we're still, seeking support and wanted to make sure that if there's a lot of really great news, but we don't want to look over the fact that we do still have our most difficult jobs to fill, sometimes it seems, are those ECS classified positions, an assistant in one of our highly structured classrooms or across our county. So we happen to have 22 open positions, and that is about the same that we had last year at this time. So that's a data point that really didn't move, and that's just something we noticed when we were looking at the data. We still also currently need approximately 10 more bus drivers. And of those 85 we mentioned a moment ago, also 17 of those 85 are coaches at some of our schools, which is a big number out of 85. And we love the fact that our coaches provide that well-rounded experience for our students. But also last year at this time, there were 60 unfilled positions. And so that is something else for us to consider. That is a win, even though we still want to make sure we have those coaches for our students so that our teams are cared for and that our students get to do those extracurriculars. And that was the last slide I had prepared, but I was curious if you guys have any questions for me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. I have a couple questions. So I've not been shy about saying, a lot of people have asked, what's your vision for Oldham County Schools? On the employer side, I've made it no secret that I would love Oldham County School to be the most admired employer in the state. And that's regardless of any industry, across all industries. I've worked for those companies that have been most admired. I've led from an executive level. I'm looking at the 22 open positions. So it hasn't changed numerically. Would you still describe that as like desirable to have 22 open positions?
Not at all. I think that's definitely one of our greatest needs. I think I think continuing to think outside the box for what connections can we make to community partners, to people in our families, and just how can we continue to showcase that particular role and make that role beneficial to people who may be interested in applying.
Yeah, I would love that because I really feel when a community demonstrates that it's, again, this isn't a lack of care on any administration. In other words, this isn't a lack of demonstrated care or concern. What I'm saying is I think when an organization shows great attention on those who are vulnerable and would need a little, extra support and extra push, I think that highlights the strength of that organization. So I would just hope that you would, see us as a partner. I'm really curious to see when you drill down and you think about what makes that role more desirable or what would it take to get that done. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, like not on the spot, but, at some point.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and we did pass additional pay for those.
Yes.
For
Yes.
those positions in the spring, so
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm wondering if, had we not done that, would it be
That's right.
worse than 22?
That's what I
Yes.
think too. Initially, when I saw that number, I was thinking, okay, well, that incentive must not have worked. But then the more I think about it, okay, it probably did work in keeping with a lot of those people. So
Right.
I know that's a tough position to fill, so.
Definitely. Yes, it could have definitely been a larger number. That isn't something that I'm curious now that I can go back and look is how many of the resignations were someone who worked in one of those classrooms because maybe everyone stayed in those classrooms, but this is just some positions that were already still open from last year. I do know that some principals have recently worked with the director of special education to see, like, based on the numbers in their building, they may actually need to add. So it's a position that just didn't even exist last year, but it has just been added to just to make sure that all students have what they need based on their IEP and their special care that they might need.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, these are numbers I feel like we've been dreaming of over the last 3 years. So there's been a lot of effort by so many people that have put into that. So thank you for providing those numbers. It's really impressive to see.
Great. No problem. Thank you. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Okay.
It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a student enrollment update from Mr. Michael Williams, and he's got some attachments in our documents as well, but he's going to talk.
Welcome.
Good evening. As you all can see on the report that we opened the school year with 11,691 students. Okay, that was 137 less than we had at the start of the school year last year. Okay, with projections coming at the end of the first month, which would be September 2nd, will be the end of our first month, and that's when that's the number that I use for projections for each year. That we have that, like I said, that we were under 127%, or under 127 students. We did have 2 schools that were at 100% or 99% capacity or greater. When you look at day 9, which all of you should have gotten the report from Sheila, we are at 11,800 students. So we are now 18 students below projection. Okay, and as I said, those numbers will be used, our final enrollment number based on the end of school on September 2nd will be the number that I will use moving forward as we do projections, and that will be presented to you all at the October board meeting. And I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Can you just say out loud, Michael, which 2 are 99 or better?
I don't have it in front of me. I forgot to print that out, but it should be South High and Oldham County High School.
Okay, I see it. Thanks.
Anybody else have questions? No? Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Miss Alexander for the treasurer's report. Welcome, Miss Alexander.
Good evening. Just for the treasurer's report, this is going to be for July, so it's the first month of the year. And I just want to go over, we'll start with Report 1, with the summary of all the fund and activity at the beginning balances. It reflects our receipts and disbursements for the month. You can see our governmental funds. We had about 9.6 million in receipts and a little over 17 million in expenses, which gives us an ending balance of 88.7 million. Then you have the activity fund, food service fund, and daycare. All of those combined were a little over 98.1 million. The next section on that Report 1 is our bond and construction, which is an ending balance of 48 million. And then the last section on this page is our investment account, which is a total ending of 16.7 million. And then if you'll head on over to Report 2, it is just a duplication of the first one, but it gives you the breakdown on the second page, which I think is what you have. It has all the individual funds that are included. It tells you the general fund balance, all the funds that are part of the governmental funds in a more detailed fashion. You have the reflection of the district activity, the capital outlay, the building fund, construction fund, and the debt service as well. And then if you go to Report number 3, we have started our new year, and so there's not a whole lot of comparisons. Everything's kind of at the beginning stages as far as percentages. It has a breakdown of the revenue comparisons for prior years. You'll notice that we do receive most of our general fund tax revenue between November and February. We did receive our first capital outlay payment for the year, and we will get the remaining of that money in May. Report number 4, it shows you our historical trends across all of our revenue accounts. And then for Report 7 and 8, you have our balance sheet and our income statement for all the funds. And this is just a quick summary report of the month of July. We're gearing up for another great year, and I will present you the working budget in September. Do you have any questions?
Great. Anyone have any questions? No. Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Henley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Next up, we have some meeting minutes that we need to approve.
Yeah.
The first one is the revised regularly scheduled board meeting in July, on July 28th, which Ms. Harold already outlined. Does anyone have any questions on that? Revision on that? Can I get a motion to approve those? Made by Mr. Cedillo, seconded by Ms. Henley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Next is a special called meeting on August 6th. Any questions on those? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Henley, seconded by Ms. Sheffer. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Another special called meeting on August 8th. Can I get a motion to approve those? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Henley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. And then lastly, we have a special called work session on August 18th. Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Henley, seconded by Mr. Cedillo. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. Next up, we have personnel actions.
Yes, and if you can see, you have an attachment that will give you up-to-date information as of today, August the 25th, of retirements, resignations, appointments of positions, and then broken down by classified, certified, and then those individuals that would need to be on a leave of absence, as well as those that have had a change in assignments.
So we'll just take those under advisement. And then moving right along to consent items. Anyone have any questions on consent items?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
The additional ARC chairs, are those just filling positions that we had already, or is that an addition of ARC chairs?
Is that on the personnel
There's
action
two
you
of
just
them.
looked at?
No,
No,
it's on
it's on
8E.
consent items.
Consent items 8E.
Those are going to be in addition to the current number that we have. Sorry,
Okay.
I had to get to that report.
Did we just have more?
I would assume an increase in
In
student
students,
population where those services would be needed.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Mr. Cedillo. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. And then we're going to move on to superintendent reports.
Yes, if you heard Dr. Dylan Smith and then Ms. Katie Garrett both talk about the new teacher program and our teacher onboarding program, I think that's, you know, obviously you all just recognize the hard work that several people have done, especially through strategic planning committees that you have put together. So if you look at those numbers of 23, 24 new teachers at that time, you had about 175, and you're under 120 for the 25-26 school year. And so, you know, I think due to the work of this board and committees that you all have put in place to really look at staff retainment and incentives to compare to surrounding extremely populated districts, I think that number speaks to the highlights that have been done, and I think that's, you know, probably a pretty good percentage decrease of new staff. And as Dr. Smith said, half of those are coming in with experience to our district, so those are all great things. If you look at the next one, it's a field trip revision, and so that is actually, I just need to make you aware, there was a field trip that was approved in April, and just need you to know that once you all approved it, it has gone from parent transport to where they're utilizing a common carrier, and they've submitted the accurate information for us to have on file for that field trip. But it had already been previously approved, so I just needed you to be aware of that. Next item would be the amended calendar, and so you have an attachment, and Mr. Williams will come back. Oh, there he is. To talk to us about the amended calendar for 25-26.
Okay, so as you can see in the enclosure, we had an omission on our calendar. We omitted primary election day, which would be May 19th of 2026. So in the original enclosure, we had proposed taking the February staff day. After further conversations, I'm going to present to you 4 options, preferably in the order that they would be most acceptable. So option 1 would actually be to take the March teacher workday rather than the February teacher workday and make it, the teacher workday, move it to primary election day, which would be May 19th. Option 2 would be to take President's Day, which is February 16th, and then just have that as a school day, and then have the students off on primary election day, which again, and I failed to mention, but because we are used as polling places, we have to be closed. Okay, option 3 would be as proposed in the enclosure that you have, and then option 4, probably the least favorable, would be to just add on an additional day to the school year and go from there, which would mean we would come back the last day for students would become Tuesday after Memorial Day.
What was option 3? Did I miss it?
3 was, as we proposed it in here, taking the February teacher workday
Oh, okay.
and making the teacher workday on the 19th of May.
Out of the 4 options, do you have a recommendation that you would want us to consider?
I would probably say that the recommendation would be to take the March teacher workday. But ultimately, as you know, every time I present calendar to you all, it is your calendar. I am just the steward of that calendar, so.
Adam, did you have a question?
No, I was probably leaning more towards support the option 1, which was taking the teacher workday from March and flipping that with the
May 19th.
And I think you would have talked to building level administration that would support that
Yes, we
option
had
the most.
At admin staff last Wednesday, it was brought up, and that was the most agreeable version that was presented, obviously followed closely by taking President's Day.
Could option 4 be reserved for the kids who did the least best with the cell phone policy?
Michael,
Wait a minute.
just out of curiosity, with the abundance of churches that we have in our county, is there a reason why we have to have polling places in our schools? Can we just tell them no thanks?
I am working on that. It has been a multi-year process. And that's all I can say at this point, because I keep getting told no.
Well, can't we say no? I mean, we
I-
own the schools and we,
That I would have to check legally whether we can say no to that one.
just wonder, I mean, it's just a thought. There's an awful lot of other places where this could be done.
Yes, ma'am.
That they would welcome a lot of people in. And it seems like all these Mays and Novembers get us, and I don't understand why.
I understand. And Ms. Alvey and I have had multiple conversations about this, is what I can tell you.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So his information obviously is going to appear later on underneath action items for you all to take one of the recommendations that he proposed tonight to amend the calendar for the 25-26 year.
Ms. Dant and Ms. Dalton, do you all have any thoughts from your teams? Not to put that pressure on you, but I don't want to make a decision that you guys are living it, so.
I think Michael spoke to the principals. They do very much value the teacher workdays as opportunities for professional learning. And the earlier we can do the professional learning, the better. I think, unfortunately, what February workday, because, it's with the President's Day, that's a 4-day weekend where people usually have made plans. So that's kind of a hard day to take. So, I mean, we're not gonna make everybody happy, but
Right.
I do think the leaders do value being able to use these days to do professional learning and meeting with teachers, looking at data.
So with that, your suggestion would be
The March one?
the well, if
The
we take,
last.
the last option is adding the day, is that what you're thinking?
No.
Oh, okay,
Glad I ain't getting hung out for that one.
I guess I'm confused, because if we take the teacher workday and move it to, it would be late in the year, right?
It would. And I think that's probably the best case scenario. It's just that
Okay,
the acknowledgement that moving forward, that we really try to protect those.
well, and I know with President's Day, we changed that last year, so I hate to,
This is the second year in a row.
yeah, so we would be doing that for a second year in a row, where we took President's Day away after it was off.
Ms. Klein,
Um,
we actually took the teacher workday in March.
Oh, is that what we did? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But I do think that schools were able to find things of value to do at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Some reflection, and I think they will make the time valuable no matter what you choose.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Any more questions? I felt like, no?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Okay, next, you all have had some information for our tax rate. We did a working session a week ago today, I believe, where we looked at information from Ms. Alexander. As you know, every year we have to look at our tax rate and make decisions. PVA is crucial in this. Property assessments go to the state. Once the state receives this information, we are then given rate options for us to consider. If you go back to your packet, and there's some attachments in there, there were 4 options. And so if we look at the KRS 160470 tells us that we have to adopt a tax rate. But then KRS 1320225 has given us the power to, if we're not making changes above that 4%, to be able to handle that in a regular meeting. And so the 4% rate we receive from the state is 81.3. Last year, it was at 81.2. That means we are staying under the 4% rate that was given to us, established by Kentucky. And so that information obviously is going to come back out for you all to take a vote on in our action items later in the agenda. questions on any of that?
I know we've discussed this quite a bit. Like you said, we had the work session last week where we discussed this quite a bit, but does anybody have any additional questions? I think the recommendation was that we keep the rate flat, which means we would not take the 4%.
We would fall underneath.
Yeah, I just wanted the number that the rate staying flat, but how much did more revenue was based on the PVA? Do we not have that yet? Like how,
I don't know that that's
what is the
official.
forecasted?
And I have Ms. Alexander here, but it was going to stay underneath the 4%. I'm not for sure of the actual revenue that would come from that.
Because, PVA has gone up, like values have gone up, so even if the rate's flat, the amount of money that the schools are receiving should still increase. I didn't know I was kind of curious with that. In last year.
That was flat.
And that's where we could have done the exonerations, but we're choosing to not take the exonerations to recover that? Okay.
Do you care to explain that just a little bit for the community where, I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, but where we expected to get a certain amount last year and we were given the option to recoup that this year, and we are
Not going to.
anticipating that we're not going to be taking that option to recoup that money?
Carrie, will you come up, please?
Sorry.
All right, so when you receive your information from the state, it gives you your different options. So with the 4% increase, it was 81.3, but they also give you, to recover losses from prior year due to exonerations, it was 0.9. So technically, by going with what the state gave us, our options, you could go up to 82.2 for a tax rate with not recallable, just to recover our losses from last year, which, as I said a second ago, we were expected to produce 73 million, and we only received 70,824,000. So we did take a reduction last year, and then we're not going to enforce that this year. We're still just saying keep the rate flat at the 81.2.
And those exonerations were due to?
Some of it is where it's, things aren't paid. Another was, there was a miskey in a assessment with the PVA,
Okay.
which made some difference, yes.
Okay.
So PVA mistake and then non-payment.
Yes.
And so we had an option, just for you guys out there to understand, we had an option to recoup that, which was, what, was it $1 million or $2 million?
0.9.
Oh,
Yeah. It was about 2
Which would
million.
come from everyone in our community, and we're taking the option to not do that.
Yes.
To stay below the 4%.
Yes. So, okay, thank you. I know that's confusing, so I just wanted to make sure everybody had an opportunity to hear that.
If no other questions from the tax rate, then we also have an item to look at in our action item that will be consider approval of staff incentive. And so you'll see that document in there as well. And I know that that process had started last year, and you all were able to assist in staff retention. And so you have a document in there that would show what you could potentially do for staff incentive this year. And if you look at that calculation, you have a full-time employee gross pay, and then you have a part-time employee gross pay. And if you see that that amount is increased from what you were able to do last year. And so that will be an action item that comes in later in the agenda.
And we are able to do this because of our healthy carry forward balance, right?
Yes.
But we are also going to look at even more reduction in student fees if, as well. Like, we were going to pull that as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any questions on that? Okay.
Recognition.
At this time, we've got, are we ready for recognitions? Perfect timing, 5:30. Yay.
Ready? Okay. For tonight's public recognition, we want to talk about an activity that was held on August the 5th. Hopefully, you've been able to see some video highlights and what we were able to do. But on August the 5th, our bus drivers, our bus monitors, mechanics, everybody in the transportation department and office, they spent the legwork behind getting ready for August the 5th. I couldn't even tell you how many hours they utilized to put together for this event. But all of those stakeholders came together for an 8-hour bus driver update. It is like no update that I've ever been exposed to in 20-some years. And so we were able to go to campus over by Oldham County High School. Most of the drivers had no awareness of what had been put together for them. So they believe that they're leaving Arvin and they're going to go see something, but they really had no idea what it was. And it was hands-on. They got to see the dangers of distracted driving firsthand. In that process, we want to thank not only our first responders, because in this community they came out and they showed up and they treated it as a real live activity. They partnered with us to pull all of this off, but our driver trainers went above and beyond to make sure the simulation was as real as possible, and it truly was. I think at some point, almost eerie when I think about some of the drivers witnessing have been involved in some way or shape of Carrollton, and it brought back. And so it was simulated very real. Some of our driver trainers that we need to talk about, Robin Yaw, Monica Arvinson, John Carter, David Peters, Carla O'Daniel, Laura Morrison, Ron Miracle, and Becky Clark. And so we have a short video that we want to show you that put this simulation to act. At this time, I want to ask Jeffrey Webb to come up, our Director of Transportation. He is going to finish the speech of our Ignite Passion Award. whatever you want to do.
Let's do this. Miss Nina, are you here? Nina, come on up. All right. So basically what started off back in, I don't remember, March, April, Nina said, "Hey boss, can we roll a bus?" And I was like, "Sure." So anyway, that started out, it grew into the best training class, I think, in the history of Oldham County Schools Transportation Department. This event was covered by every Louisville television news outlet. It was the Kentucky Department of Education bus driver training department came out to watch, and people across the state are still talking about it. This is all because of Nina and her passion for training school bus drivers to be the safest on the road. Once the opportunity to roll a bus, Nina ran with it. She worked with all of our local first responder agencies pulling off the training of the century. This included coordinating with Burroughs Wrecker Service to flip our bus, LaGrange Fire Department, Oldham County Police Department, and all of our SROs, Ballardsville Fire, Oldham County EMS, and Air Methods Kentucky to participate in the simulated rescue. She even thought about hiding the bus, which was sitting on its side at our old compound, kept it from prying eyes for several days. All of this took weeks of planning. She didn't miss a beat. Nina's been in charge of our training department since 2019. She is driven to make sure our students arrive to school and back home safely. She genuinely cares about each driver's development and takes pride in knowing that her innovative training methods are making our roads safer for thousands of students every day. Her ability to turn what is normally a boring 8-hour update into an extraordinary learning experience perfectly embodies and passion and creativity we celebrate in this Ignite Passion Award. So, thank you, Nina.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As our superintendent said earlier, I couldn't have done this without our entire training team at Oldham County Transportation. We have a great team, great driver trainers. As you've seen in the video, they all played our victims. Our then superintendent, Dr. Radford, would not let me use students. So we used the next best thing, which was our driver trainers, and we wanted to make it as real as possible. And I feel without a doubt we definitely made it real. The audible gasps from the time those drivers stepped off the bus, hearing the crash noise, to seeing the bus rolled over on its side, to hearing the people inside of the bus screaming for help, the first responders rolling in with lights and sirens and all the bells and whistles. And, the bus was smoking, simulating the engine was going to catch fire. I don't know how much more real we could have made it. All the way down to the fake wounds and the fake blood. I mean, we really tried to go all out. I wanted the drivers and monitors to walk away from that training never forgetting what they've seen. And hopefully we will never have to witness here in Oldham County. I will say what sparked the idea, there was a bus rollover in South Carolina earlier this year where a student was lost. And not sure if it was because of distracted driving, but there are many variables to bus rollovers, but distracted driving is a leading cause. Since then, just since school has started, within the past 3 weeks, there has been 3 rollovers in Texas killing students. So it is a real factor. It is something that, the best drivers can be faced with an emergency, hopefully one never like this, but we ask the community to please be vigilant when they are around the buses, driving near the buses. Please pay attention.
You know, our drivers can only be as good as the people around them. So thank you for this award. I appreciate it. I don't do my job to get recognition like this, but it is nice every once in a while to know that I'm appreciated. So thank you very much.
Before we get into public, you can come on up. Before we get into public expression, we do have a visitor with us tonight, Miss Pamela from Kentucky School Board Association. Are there comments that you would want to make for being here? Hi. You picked a great night to be here if you look out and look at the crowd.
Thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight. Just going to take about 2 minutes. And I'm Pamela Moorhead, President of the Kentucky School Board Association. And one reminder, of course, we have our 5th region meeting on Thursday in Orrington, Kentucky. That will be an election for our regional director. So I hope everyone is already registered to be there on Thursday.
Thank you.
Also, COSPA, our national convention, will be here in Kentucky in March. It will be in Louisville at the Galt House. I don't know if any of you all have ever been to COSPA, but it is wonderful. I hope you plan to be there. If you don't want to spend the night, please get signed up for different sessions. Pick out what you like to go to, and that information will be coming very soon. That information will be coming out very soon. And the Academy of Studies, I know most people have already reached that, but if you have not, we have rearranged some of the sessions to make it easier for you to complete your Academy of Studies. If you were at the summer session, you would have recognized that, but it will also be at the winter session and at our annual session in February. And we also will have 4 seats for our regional directors, not regional director, but for our directors at large for KSBA. Please be looking for that information, and I hope someone will be interested in running for our directors. Thank you all for allowing me to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to start with public expression. First, I want to take a moment, and the board can also speak to this before we start. First of all, thank you for being here and being a part of our school board meeting.
Ms. Harold, can
Yes.
we take a 5-minute?
We will.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
Thank you for being here. We love having you. We love seeing who you represent by the colors that you wear. We will ask, if you look at our public expression, we have over 5 pages of people that have signed up to speak. What we ask to make the most of you being heard and expressions to be told, we ask that if your time is not up yet and you come to the podium, if it's duplicating, if you've already heard someone speak what you want to talk about, think about other things in that topic that you want to speak on, so that we can hear all voices and then it's not repetitive. We promise you we have gotten every email from both sides. We read those. We are taking the matter very seriously, and we've said that before. We take you very seriously. But most importantly, 5 board members and the superintendent, we are here to make decisions on what's best for every child in this district. Every child. And when I say that, multiple of us up here, all of us, have children that go to the school system. It impacts us too. So we don't take any decision that's made on this stage lightly, I promise you, okay? When you get into tax rate, we think about things in that tax rate, even though, it's under the 4%. That decision is made because we're setting goals on what we want to happen in Oldham County schools. We want the very best for our children in this district. Your children, our children. And so in that, you're going to hear us talk about a lot of planning over the next 4 years minimal, where we want to increase the opportunities for our students, right? And if you've heard me speak at all, we have a lot of opportunities for our students. We want more. We want equal across 3 high schools. We want the innovative things that are going on in our middle schools to go to our high schools. So we hear you, we believe you, and we are so committed to the students of this district. So we take you serious. If we're not responding to your email, it doesn't mean we're not reading it. We know this is a topic that we are going to be involved in until we make a concrete decision in that, okay? So we ask that you be patient with us as we're working through this. We ask that if you're doing public comment tonight, that not be repetitive. If there are topics you want to talk about in that and it's already been talked about, then let us know the other pieces to that that maybe has not been shared. We do have a lot, and so we are going to utilize 3 minutes per person, or we could be going into an extension at midnight. And so we definitely want to have the most of your time. We will take a recess before we start. Ms. Suzanne, how long?
5 minutes would be great.
We'll do 5 minutes so everybody can go to the restroom and get settled back in, and we will go ahead and say that person number 1 to speak is?
Mr. John Sutton.
So John Sutton, you'll get ready to go first when we come back, okay? So we will be ready to go at 5:51. Thank you.
And I think we have about 40 speakers, and just out of respect for our staff members that are here, I know some of you all don't even have seats, so we're going to release them. I know many of them have sporting events that they're trying to get to and different things for their kids, so you guys are free to leave at this time.
Also, too, to be transparent, I'm going to be the timekeeper. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you're going to get a little hey from me. That is you have 30 seconds to finish your thoughts. We're not bleeding over. Everyone's going to have their 3 minutes. But in the past, sometimes we've let people go a little bit longer, and with how many pages tonight, that's not happening. So at 2:30, you're going to get a little hey there. And you got 30 seconds to wrap your stuff up. And then at 3 minutes, we're all done and the next person's coming up. So.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. I tend to get distracted with the timing, so I'm going to let Suzanne handle
And
that.
I won't start until you start. Let me be clear on that, too. I'm going to be very fair. But I'm going to be firm, y'all, so.
Okay. Each regular meeting shall include a public comment period of at least 15 minutes. Any board rules and policies regarding conduct during school board meetings shall apply during the public comment period. The chairperson may require the name and address of the speaker. The chairperson may rule on the relevance of the topic to the board's agenda. The chairperson may also establish time limits for speakers, as they may be required to maintain order and to ensure the expedient conduct of the board's business. The board as a whole shall have the final decision as to the appropriateness of all rulings.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Sutton, welcome to the podium. I think, do we need to move this?
Yeah, so give me a chance to get this
Thank
adjusted.
you.
I have not hit start yet. sir.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah,
You
I'm
will not be
sorry.
penalized for moving the
Right.
mic.
And also, I've got all this stuff written down, and it occurred to me because I could get my phone to have bigger letters, so I'm going to read from my phone if you're okay
Sure,
with that.
sure.
Anyway, so my name is John Sutton, and I'm here today, number one, as a concerned parent of 4 Oldham County graduates, and for 8 of my 16 grandchildren who are, have, or will be attending Oldham County schools. And secondly, I'm also here representing as Vice President of Americans United for Separation of Church and State for Kentucky. In addition, I'm also on the Board of Directors of the Freedom from Religion Foundation for Kentucky, both national organizations. Americans United is the only national organization dedicated to solely to defending the separation of church and state and protecting the foundational American principle of freedom of religion, including the right to believe or not believe for all. And I'm here advocating for the integrity of public education, the constitutional separation of church and state, and the inclusive values that serve all families in Oldham County. The group known as LifeWise Academy, a conservative Baptist affiliated organization, is proposing a program to provide moral education to students during the school day with parent permission at an off-campus location. On the surface, this may seem like a harmless voluntary program, but I urge you to look deeper. The proposal carries real and lasting implications for our public schools, our students, and the core constitutional principles that guide our democracy. First and foremost, our public schools must remain neutral on matters of religion. That is not an opinion, that is a constitutional mandate. When a religious group is given access to students through the school day, even with parental consent, it blurs the line between education, public education, and religious indoctrination. This creates a slippery slope where one's group theology is given implicit legitimacy and privilege over others. Second, this proposal threatens equity and inclusion. What happens to the students who don't attend these programs, those from different religions, backgrounds, or even secular families? They may be left behind socially or academically during that time. They may feel excluded, or quite frankly, worse. They may feel pressure to conform just to fit in. Public schools should never create environments where students feel divided among religious lines. Third, let's talk about priorities. Our schools are already under tremendous pressure to meet academic standards and address student mental health and ensure every child is prepared for a rapidly changing world. Is carving out time from an already limited school schedule for outside religious programming really the best use of educational hours? This is not opposing religion. It's about keeping public education public, inclusive, evidence-based, and welcoming to every child regardless of their family beliefs or non-beliefs. If LifeWise or any other religious groups wants to offer programming, they are welcome to do so after school, on weekends, or through their own institutions, not during the public school day. We must be vigilant when well-funded, well-organized religious groups attempt to quietly insert their worldview into our public institutions, no matter how politely or permission-based their approach may seem. And that is exactly what these folks are trying to do. So in closing, I ask you to stand with the Constitution, education, and integrity.
Okay, your 3 minutes is
I'll
up,
let-
sir.
okay, cool.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr.
I want to thank you, and if you had
very
any
much.
questions, I'd be willing to answer those regarding our involvement in Kentucky through the Americans United for the separation of church and state.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Next we have, is it Dayanette? And you're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your last name. I'm so sorry.
Just like it looks.
All right.
It's Danette Kanashtik. I am here as, thank you. I am here as a concerned parent. This is my first school board meeting, so thank you so much. I appreciate the time to speak. My family, we are relatively new to Oldham County, and we chose this community over Jefferson County due to the school system. And we have had a wonderful experience. The teachers are amazing. The staff, the administration, everybody has been exceptional. We've felt welcomed, we've felt supported, and confident in the education that my child's receiving and that my child is safe at school until now. I am here to ask that when it comes time to vote, that you vote no on a partnership with LifeWise. While I respect everyone's right to practice their faith, I also believe that public education must remain a place where all students feel safe, included, and are free from undue religious influence. And I want to be clear, this will be viewed as a partnership. Whether a Bible study is held off-site, children are going to see it as part of their school day. Any effort to distance the district from the program will be seen as nuance, especially by school-age children. This partnership does open doors to a troubling precedent. If you allow one special interest group in to access to our children during school hours, how do you say no to the next? What happens when other groups, religious, political, ideological, whatever, come forward demanding equal access? You're risking turning our schools into battlegrounds for competing agendas, rather than sanctuaries for learning what they are now and should be. So let's talk a little bit about the students who opt out. They're separated from their peers, giving yet another reason for bullying. School board members and superintendents and other areas have testified that LifeWise programs create social pressures through branded clothing and peer influence. From a school district that does such a great job with inclusion, it just doesn't make sense to bring in this polarizing influence. This also places an unfair burden on our teachers. Other school board members and superintendents have testified that LifeWise programs require staff to manage the student transitions throughout the day and divert attention from core academic priorities. So let me ask you, what would you do to protect your child from predators? I mean, probably like me, there's not a whole lot that you wouldn't do. While assurances may be made about who will staff this program, the door is open. Once the doors open, these promises tend to fade. And what happens when off-site instruction becomes inconvenient and the laws are changed? We've recently seen how easy it is to change a law. The less people that have access to our children, the better. And so please, when you do vote on this, vote to keep our children safe. Here's a verse from the text that LifeWise teaches from. It's Timothy 2:11. Let a woman learn in silence with all submissiveness. I do not permit a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man. Rather, she is to remain quiet. What message does that send to our daughters? It certainly doesn't say to me, oh, I can be a CEO. What message does it teach our sons? What happens when a generation of boys grow up believing they're inherently superior to girls? What does that look like on prom night?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jenny Bergren. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name's Jenny Bergren. I'm a former Kentucky public school teacher and a member of the committee to bring LifeWise to Oldham County because I deeply love the people of OC. I know when I first heard about LifeWise, I had many questions, and I know many of you have questions as well. As I learned more and more about LifeWise and came to understand how it works within the law to offer Bible education to public school students during school hours, and I continued to hear story after story of its positive impact, I realized this was something special. And I'm not the only one. Over 1,000 schools across the country have started working with LifeWise to offer this release time moral instruction option for parents. And as of this fall, LifeWise is now confirmed in over 34 states. I'd love to help paint a picture tonight of what a LifeWise program could look like in OC. As you've already heard, this is an optional class offering. Children are not automatically signed up for LifeWise. Parents would have the option to enroll their child through the LifeWise Oldham County website and would give their permission for their child to participate. No child will participate without parent permission. Children would participate for up to an hour per week and would not be marked absent for their time away from the school building. Because LifeWise does not operate on school property, students would be signed out of the school office by the LifeWise volunteers during a regularly scheduled transition time. LifeWise will work within the school schedule. Volunteers safely guide students to a red bus where the students will sing songs or review the previous week's lesson as they ride to the LifeWise location. The bus driver will be FBI background checked and drug tested. LifeWise is insured, and all LifeWise volunteers and staff have training in child safety and will have FBI background checks as well. Once students arrive, a teacher and volunteers lovingly guide them through a Bible lesson that has a character trait emphasis. For instance, students might participate in a lesson on David and Goliath, then learn about a character trait like discernment. The LifeWise curriculum also supports the needs of different types of learners and includes hands-on activities, crafts, songs, and games. All supplies, salaries, and operating costs are completely privately funded. Parents are not charged for LifeWise, and LifeWise receives no public school funds whatsoever. After the lesson, students are transported back to the school and resume their normal class schedule. LifeWise is never offered during a core class time. Students who do not participate will continue in their normally scheduled class. The LifeWise classroom is a place of love, respect, and joy. We truly believe that the good news of Jesus, taught through Bible-based character education, changes lives and will have a positive impact on the students of Oldham County. We humbly ask for your support in offering parents a choice to make LifeWise a part of their child's weekly school schedule. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Erica, is it Basil? Erica, is it Basil? Basil, sorry. Welcome.
Thanks. Good afternoon. My name is Erica Basil. I have a kindergartner at Centerfield and 2 7th graders at East Oldham Middle School. I go to St. William Church. I was raised Christian. I'm here to speak out against approving any type of partnership or connection with LifeWise. The more I learn about this organization, the more deeply concerned I am, and the more convinced I am that it does not align whatsoever with Oldham County Public Schools' mission and vision of supporting and educating all students, like you mentioned. It's not as simple as limiting its impact only to those students whose parents opt in to having their children participate. And that's aside from the fact that children are being asked to recruit other children to participate in subsequent weeks. We know from looking at what has already happened in Ohio and other states that as the program grows, this does affect all students and leads to students who don't participate being placed in non-instructional study halls and being given busy work. Despite claims not to impact learning, we know that it has, and it will. My second concern is that claims to be an interdenominational program have been proven by LifeWise's own curriculum to be untruthful. They teach that people who are LGBTQ+ and parents who are divorced are going to hell. Super sucks for about 50% of the United States parents. If you approve this, will you also be approving additional funds for mental health counselors for mine and other children when their friends come back and inform them that their parents are going to hell? When they come back and they tell my non-binary child that they're going to hell? Last year, my then 6th grader and I stood up here and we asked you for better support for LGBTQ kids. Mr. Springer, you know Lily. This and that. If parents want to teach these lessons to their children, they have that right, absolutely. But not this way. Not at a public school, not during school hours, and not with a group who've used their mission to go into public schools as their mission ground for reaching the unchurched. We don't need to sacrifice our curriculum and punish the students whose parents prefer to keep the line between church and state a little bit stronger. Kentucky gives local school boards the option or discretion to implement a policy but does not require it. Please vote no for our kiddos, for our students, Oldham County students and parents deserve better.
Thank you. Stephanie Wonicki.
Hi there. My name is Stephanie Wojnicki, and I'm a parent of school-aged children and have lived in Oldham County for the last 18 years. It's a joy to talk to each of you today, and I wanted to speak about my support and enthusiasm for LifeWise Academy, and I'm urging you to please vote to allow access to this opportunity. I do understand and have heard that there are those here who do not want Oldham County parents to even have the option for release time religious instruction. They say allowing a group like LifeWise is not consistent with the mission of public schools. However, isn't that the point? That's the whole reason LifeWise came to exist, because parents do want their children enrolled in public schools and have the enhancement of religious education. And so LifeWise has made a way to take that lawfully, just 1 hour per week, separately, optionally, and privately funded, completely distinct from public schools altogether. So the topic of the mission of the public schools doesn't even apply. Today is about the constitutional and lawful opportunity of parents to have a say in their own children's education during school hours. It was settled in 1952, and our own state legislature has paved the way. It is not necessary for you, members of the board, to be personally favorable toward release time religious education in general, or even LifeWise in particular. Instead, I'm asking that you recognize the lawful opportunity before you and allow this program fair access. I've heard some opposing religious time education and comparing LifeWise to the intrusion of the data center, which nearly ruined Oldham County. I stood against the data centers and will continue to do so, but it is fear-mongering and misinformation to compare LifeWise to the intrusion of a data center. Unlike the data centers, which would ultimately cost Oldham County taxpayers dearly in the form of utility hikes and lowered property values, a program like LifeWise is self-sustaining. In contrast to data centers, LifeWise is not a drain on resources. It would benefit this community, and Oldham County already holds a stellar reputation in this state. And many parents like me recognize the value of instilling character, and it would be one more reason why families in Oldham County would want to choose to come here. I would love to see so much gained, and there's nothing to be lost in bringing LifeWise. They are doing this respectfully and excellently, and they will add value to our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassie Alcorn. Hello.
Good evening. My name is Cassie Alshon. You all already know me. First, thank you all for taking the time to review the complexities of the legislation, community concerns, and the written request for approval we submitted last month. As a parent of 3 children at Locust Grove and a former Oldham County school teacher, I am deeply invested in the topic of moral instruction during the school day. One of the main reasons I applied to be the director of LifeWise in Oldham County was my desire for my own children and other families who choose to receive Bible-based moral character education during school hours. I'm grateful for the opportunity to offer this program only to parents who expressly opt in for their children's participation upon approval, if so. Since we met with the district and Locust Grove earlier this year, Kentucky had amended its moral instruction law effective June 27, 2025. KRS 158.200 now requires organizations like LifeWise to submit written requests to local boards of education, which we did in July. The law's enactment clearly reflects Kentucky legislative intent to allow moral instruction programs in public schools. Marshall County, Kentucky has already demonstrated the full legality of LifeWise through 2 schools of successful implementation. While I understand community concerns, it's important to recognize that local school boards cannot change state law. And I know you all know that. We remain fully compliant with KRS 158.200. Currently, we are obtaining required national and state criminal background checks, as well as child abuse and neglect clearances for all LifeWise staff and volunteers. We also know that you all are seeking clarification on the legislation and your responsibility as the Board of Education from the Attorney General's office. We appreciate your desire to adhere to the law, and we understand this may take some time, so we will be patient as we wait. Some members of the public have expressed concerns about how our volunteers are vetted. I want to assure everyone that we take this process very seriously, requiring each volunteer to complete an interview, provide references, and undergo thorough fingerprinting and background checks, as previously mentioned. We've also heard concerns about our curriculum and how we handle difficult questions from students. We take the concerns of all families seriously. LifeWise teaches the basics of a biblical worldview centered on love for all people and the development of positive character traits like kindness, gratitude, and respect. Our curriculum focuses on the main and plain teachings of the Bible and does not include instruction on sexuality. When students ask sensitive or difficult questions, especially on topics like sexuality, we train our team to respond by saying, "That's a very good question. I would encourage you to ask your parents." For those seeking to understand the foundational principles underlying our Bible-based character education program, please refer to our statement of faith aligned with the Nicene Creed and our worldview statement, both of which are available at lifewise.org. You can also request a curriculum sample at lifewise.org/curriculum. Families who do not agree with our statement of faith are free to choose not to participate in the program, just as they might with any other optional enrichment.
Thank you. Jesse Green. Jesse Green. Hi, Jesse.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. My name is Jesse Green. I am the legal counsel for the Family Foundation in Kentucky, and I am here to speak in favor of LifeWise Academy. I want to start by addressing some of the alleged legal concerns about the supposed violation of separation of church and state. This concern is neither grounded in the law nor grounded in the facts of the program. The Supreme Court in 1953 ruled that moral instruction programs like the programs that LifeWise Academy offers are constitutional and pose zero risks of violating the Establishment Clause. The facts further prove that LifeWise poses no issue in this area. LifeWise is a voluntary, off-campus, and 100% supported by private donations organization that receives no taxpayer support. The law and the facts definitively prove this point, that there is no constitutional issue, and the suggestions otherwise are ultimately grounded in hostility towards religious liberty. Having addressed that concern, I want to bring another legal area to the board. That's the issue of parental rights. Now, recently, the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of more parental involvement in the education of public schools. School boards would be very wise to consider this ruling from the Supreme Court and increase the availability of parents to be involved in the education of their kids. Ultimately, approving LifeWise protects the right of parents to direct the education of their child how they see fit. LifeWise allows parents who value their moral instruction to participate in this program while not forcing parents and students who view differently, not forcing them to participate. Ultimately, this is an opt-in program. There's no requirements of anyone to participate. It is ultimately an option for parents if they so choose to opt into this program. I urge the board to consider the parents and the students who would find value in these programs by voting to authorize LifeWise Academy in Oldham County. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel.
Can we queue up like 3 people? Can we like queue up for like 3 people? Like up next?
Oh,
in the
sure.
whole.
Okay. Okay. Angel, is it Hamill or Hamilton? Sorry, I couldn't read the end of it. Okay, you're next, and then after that is Michael Slider. So, Michael, you're on deck. Thank you. Sorry.
Well, hi, my name is Angel Hamilton, and I don't have a red or black shirt on. I did not get that tip,
I didn't get
but
that at all.
I'm here as a parent, and I just want to speak briefly about the LifeWise proposal to you guys. And I'll try to do that in between texts where my kids are asking what to do with what's in the crock pot. Okay, I hold a BA in theology from Asbury College, and I have a master's in religion and Christian education from the Louisville Seminary. And I also have a master's in teaching from Bellarmine University. I spent 14 years in outreach ministry with the United Methodist Church. And I worked with students from K through 12th and later taught in Priority 1 schools before becoming a stay-at-home mom. This past year, I got to return to teaching as an LBD teacher at Harmony, where my kids go to school, and I got to support kindergarten and first grade teachers or students with IEPs. As someone who's worked in both ministry and education, I deeply value community involvement. It's great to see so many would-be volunteers. But effective service starts by asking schools what they need and not by proposing what we think they need. In our ministry, we partnered with U of L to implement an after-school tutoring program that helped transform a struggling elementary school. And that success came through collaboration, not interruption of the school day. As someone who has taught, I see daily how little time we have with students, especially those with IEPs. Pulling kids out during instruction time, even with good intentions, takes away from valuable learning moments, as many of the educators up here know. And they already don't have enough of that time. I know I didn't, with 20 to 30 minutes of IEP schedule timing. So I welcome LifeWise and any other community effort to serve our students, but I believe that this should be done after school and not during the instructional hour. Our kids need every minute we can give them during those hours to achieve academic success. I have a right-brained and a left-brained child. I'm going to speak off topic. And, you know, a program like LifeWise or FCAA, our children would be a part of. But I will tell you, my left-brained child will not leave a related arts class. That is his joy. And so to make him choose which to do seems a bit unfair. So hope you consider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Slider, and then Jessica Cardwell, you're on deck. Welcome.
All right. My name is Michael Slider. I'm Executive Director of Kentucky Citizens for Democracy. I taught in Oldham County for 15 years, and my wife, Nixby, and I met at SOHS in 1999. She's still teaching there today. All three of our kids went through Locust Grove, and the school sits on what used to be her grandparents' farmland. Our roots run deep here. We are also Christians. I was shocked to learn July 28th that Locust Grove SBDM had approved religious release time during the day for groups of students. Being in administration, I can tell you there were a lot of events that transpired in this process that were not typical and were not transparent. No parent survey, no staff survey, and no formal approval from the board. For their SBDM to approve something like this for the first time in Oldham County history seemed arrogant, to say the least. Someone with LifeWise had an inside track to that council. Then, through open records requests, I see an email from Ms. Alshorn, LifeWise leader, warning the Locust Grove principal that our group was coming to their SBDM meeting. So what we want to know is, does anyone on that council, principals, teachers, or parents, have connections to LifeWise? If so, that needs to be made public and transparent. Because this council was so bold, I couldn't help but wonder if there was some kind of influence coming from above them. So fast forward to the early August special call meeting. During the short discussion about religious release time and LifeWise's application, while Mr. Cedillo and Ms. Clem were raising serious, legitimate questions, Mr. Springer had a one-line response. I don't see a problem with it. That set off my radar because that is a rather flippant response to an issue of this magnitude. So once again, through open records requests, I see plenty in emails that bothers me about this whole process. There is an email from Mr. Springer to the principal on the last day of school saying I've responded to one of Mr. Fox's emails, I'm not responding to the other one. Why, as a board member, having this type of communication directly with the principal? The protocol in most school systems is that these types of things go through the superintendent or acting superintendent. I also see a number of friendly replies to LifeWise inquiries from Mr. Springer. Our group has sent multiple serious inquiries to Mr. Springer and has not received a reply. Thank you to the board members and superintendent who have replied. The last email I see is from Ms. Clem to the Locust Grove principal after the July 28th meeting, saying she wants to speak with her on the phone about this subject. Once again, why is a board member having this type of communication directly with the principal? Once again, if there are connections between anyone on this board with LifeWise, that needs to be made public and transparent. It is painfully apparent to us that LifeWise has obtained outsized influence with school leaders in Oldham County. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jessica Cardwell. I live in LaGrange. I have a first grader and 2 fourth graders at LaGrange Elementary, which is LifeWise's next target school. I realize that I am shouting into a void, standing here opposing a program that you are all very likely going to approve, but you're going to hear from me anyway. You were elected to the school board to serve all Oldham County students and their families, not just the ones who think like you or worship like you. All you have to do is say no, and you've done your job, and you've protected every Oldham County student. I find it to be lazy governance to sit back and equivocate this program as merely a matter of parental choice. LifeWise is a missionary organization that aims to send missionary children into public schools to target other children. Our family are Orthodox Christians. We are a mission field for LifeWise. A quick example of our doctrinal differences is that we do not practice a believer's baptism. Our children were baptized as babies. We believe in one baptism for the remission of sins. We are not the only mission field for LifeWise. Other target mission fields within our Oldham County schools are practicing Mormons, Catholics, Jews, Hindus, Muslims, along with agnostic and atheist families. Most LifeWise lessons end with homework to go and share what they've learned in LifeWise outside of LifeWise. This includes explicitly telling their participants to go back to their classrooms and classmates and share with them what they've learned while at LifeWise and encouraging them to join. Some of LifeWise curriculum includes telling their classmates, like my children, that their baptism doesn't count, or that they're not Christian enough, or that they're going to hell for a myriad of reasons. The moment this program sends these students back into their classrooms with students who have not opted in to share what they've been taught, including that their peers and teachers are going to hell, you've taken away every other parent's choice with regard to the LifeWise program and their teachings. You have one job as a board member, and that is to do what is best for every Oldham County student. So do it and say no to this program.
Thank you, Jessica. Marsha Elder, and then Clint Elliott is on deck.
Sorry, I just want to say really quick, I know this isn't a back and forth. I would not assume any of us are going to vote any certain way, and I am a little appalled at that. Secondly, we do talk to principals on a regular basis. I'm not defending Mr. Springer. I don't know anything about those emails, but I'm just saying, like, I personally will ask a principal, what do you think about this graduation date, or what do you think about something? So I wouldn't say it's odd for any of us to speak to a principal, because that's who we also represent, not just, okay.
Yeah, and I was
perfect.
going to talk to you afterwards
Yeah.
as well. Just
So,
for me, it would be odd not to talk to her before making a decision like that.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
know it's
we
not
can
a
talk
back
about
and
it.
forth, but I just want to make that known. So please don't assume that I'm going to vote any certain way.
Marsha Elder. Good evening.
Thank you. First, I want to congratulate for high schools. They're doing so well, especially Oldham County High School. I served the board there, and I was happy to see the progress they are doing. Thank you. I'm not going to reinforce what they said at Mr. Jason, I think, here. Perfect. I have one concern. We watched the video about the school bus that had an accident, all the training, and I wonder when the LifeWise take the kids to the church where they go, if it's going to have the same training as Oldham County Schools requires. Other thing is the path of less resistance. So LifeWise and other groups that what they are trying to do is recruit easier, the easier way to recruit people for their followers. So kids are at school, they don't miss school, and they'll be right there, ready to leave. If they have to go to every house to pick up the kids, that's not going to happen. So it's easier to bring the kids to the school. From the school, you take it to the church or to their program. So I just wonder what's going to be the liability for the school, referring to transportation. And I will use this minute just to read a poem for Khalil Gibran called On Children. Your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And true, they are with you, yet they do not belong to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in the future or in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes no backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bow from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. Please, be wise when choosing any program after school. After all, I think everyone here wants what's the best for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clint Elliott, and next would be Mia Pratt. Clint Elliott. Welcome, Mr. Elliott.
Good evening. So my name's Clint Elliott, a longtime resident of Oldham County, 29 years. Our kids went to Centerfield Elementary, South Oldham Middle, South Oldham High. So we're invested in public schools. I also serve as the Executive Director of Justice Defense Foundation of Kentucky, a Christian nonprofit headquartered here in Oldham County. We exist, educate, and express advocacy for the protection of children, for parental rights, and for upholding religious liberties. I've been practicing law more than I care to remember, and many of those years is constitutional law, specifically First Amendment law, specifically the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. So I know a lot has been said about a lot of different things. I would like to just speak to maybe some clarity about a misunderstanding about this notion of separation of church and state, and perhaps some intentional misleading comments about separation of church and state. This issue is really not about emotion. It's not about preferences. It's not about denominations. It's about the free exercise of religion. That's what the board faces. This is not an Establishment Clause issue. You are not endorsing, you're not participating, you're not partnering with, you're allowing what the law says you have to allow. You're probably aware of the Kennedy case from 2022, an incredible Supreme Court decision that brought us back under the First Amendment to the history and tradition of the First Amendment. And what's clear from that case, the Supreme Court affirmed again, as if it needed to, that public schools are not religion-free zones. The coach in that case was praying on the football field while everybody watched, while on duty, on contract time, and the U.S. Supreme Court said that's not an Establishment Clause case. The public school wasn't endorsing that. They were allowing him to exercise his freedom of religion. And that's what this is about. And you've heard about the Zorach v. Clausen case, which expressly approves and legitimizes release time programs. I'm not here representing LifeWise. I'm here representing the community and fighting for religious freedoms and want to uphold the freedoms that we do have.
30 seconds.
Huh?
30 seconds.
Yeah, and so You know, I want to read from Lynch v. Donnelly, and this is what the court says about the separation of church and state. Sometimes described as erecting a wall between church and state, the concept of a wall is useful figure of speech, probably from Jefferson, served as a metaphor, but the metaphor itself is not wholly accurate. There is no way that our institutions can really isolate separation. And here's what it says.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Constitution requires
Thank you.
accommodation.
Mia Pratt. And after Mia would be Alex LeBlanc.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I just want to thank all of you also for your diligence and commitment to our students here in the county. As a parent of one daughter at Locust Grove and one at North Oldham High, and as well as a former graduate from OC, I'm here to express my strong support for bringing LifeWise Academy to our school district. LifeWise is something that gives me, as a Christian parent, hope. This program stands as a beacon of what parent choice in public education can look like. At its core, LifeWise represents the teachings that many of us instill in our children at home and is an avenue through which these important morals and values can be reinforced in an educational setting. It provides an option for parents who might not have the means or access to private education or extracurricular opportunities outside of school hours. It democratizes the ability for all interested families to choose biblically based moral instruction without financial strain or logistical hurdles. By integrating LifeWise into the school week, participating families are provided equitable access to character-building education that aligns with their foundational beliefs. Some argue that public schools should remain neutral in these matters by not offering such programs. However, I posit that denying programs like LifeWise doesn't maintain neutrality at all. It inadvertently endorses a different set of beliefs, that God isn't allowed anywhere near my child's education. Each day, our children are influenced by the environment around them, including the curriculum and social culture already present in our schools. By not allowing a choice, we are unintentionally shaping them in a way that may not reflect the diverse values of our own community. Bringing LifeWise to our district is not about imposing a singular viewpoint. It's about enriching our educational environment with choices aligned with the values many of us hold dear. LifeWise is a way to fill that critical gap that many families like ours are so desperate to fill. And my hope is that the gap will soon narrow by offering this constitutionally protected opportunity in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex LeBlanc. And after Alex would be Megan Nyman.
Hello, my name is Alex LeBlanc. I'm a parent of multiple children in Oldham County Schools, an East Oldham SBDM parent rep, a veteran, and a proud member of Kentucky Citizens for Democracy. In these polarized times, most people still agree on one thing. Untraceable, unlimited money corrupts politics. So why would we invite that same influence into our public schools? Because that is exactly what LifeWise represents. LifeWise is fueled by tens of millions of dollars in anonymous tax-free donations funneled through donor-advised funds. With that money, they push a narrow religious worldview to kids during the school day. These tactics mirror the broader playbook of Christian nationalism, dark money, corporate tactics, and religious ideology. You may be thinking, we're not here to debate politics, this is about schools. But this conversation doesn't exist in a vacuum, and context matters. That political debate has come for our public schools, not by chance, but by battle plan. Don't believe me, believe Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who has been reposting videos of his pastor calling for the abolishment of a woman's right to vote. When discussing his book on education, Hegseth said, "We draw out in the last part of the book what an educational insurgency would look like. You build your army underground with the opportunity later on of taking offensive operations in an overt way. Pair that with LifeWise's view of our schools as mission fields to target the unchurched and impressionable 4 to 14-year-olds, and the implications are chilling. Is this how we think of our children's schools? As mission fields for religious-backed educational insurgencies? Supporters will say this is about parent choice, but families already have choices. Sunday school, youth groups, before and after school Bible clubs. What LifeWise really offers is disruption of the instructional day so they can teach kids that slavery or Jim Crow has no lasting impact, being gay or divorced is sinful, and that inclusive school environments are against God's plan. Then those kids are encouraged to recruit their friends. That's not education. That's proselytizing. LifeWise has no place proselytizing to our children through our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Nyman. And next up after Megan is Kaylee Sutton.
I'm Reverend Megan Nyman. I am a United Methodist pastor in Oldham County, but I am here as a former Oldham County parent and a concerned citizen of Oldham County. When my husband and I finished with the Navy, we came back home to Kentucky. Kentucky is our home, and we decided to settle in Oldham County because the schools were amazing, and our two boys needed a good school system. And we were very blessed with Oldham County schools. They worked with us with our boys, who were not always easy. Just because you're a preacher's kid does not mean you are an easy kid. And Oldham County was a great place for us to raise our kids, and we're thankful for that. I have several concerns with LifeWise Academy. One, I enjoyed FCA as a kid in high school, and I'm all for Christian clubs in school, but they have a time and they have a place, and during instructional time is not that time or that place. There's a time for them to meet already, not hindering their voice, not hindering their joining, and I think that we need to use the designated club time. Two, LifeWise only promotes and offers one interpretation of Scripture, and they put in their materials that it's historical Orthodox Christian beliefs, and they market it as interdenominational, and yet I have a very hard time finding my faith represented in those beliefs. I'm a Bible-believing Christian, love Jesus, love preaching Jesus every Sunday morning. And yet when I read their statement of belief, I read over their curriculum, because I did download it and read it, and I read, should children obey God over their parents? And I read some of their answers to that. I struggle with the answers. I read what they call sin, and I struggle with the answers. And I know parents have an option, but if they're busy parents like I was, they're not going to read all of those statement of beliefs. And I know that the curriculum that our teachers are dealing with, the special ed that's drawn out, the speech that's drawn out, kids are being pulled for a million different things. And then we say, why aren't their test scores high enough?
30 seconds.
And we blame them. We blame our teachers. And then we add one more thing for them to be pulled out for. As a former teacher myself, that was my first master's degree. I have a hard time adding one more hour a week for pulling kids out of instruction when they already have club time. I would endorse LifeWise for club time, not during instructional time. Thank you.
Kaylee Sutton, and next would be Tim Lehman.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kaylee Sutton. I have twin daughters that started kindergarten this year. I have a fourth grader who is in Centerfield. They were premature. My son was at 25 weeks. My daughters were at 27 weeks. School's a struggle. Nothing on their end for them to do, but it is a struggle, and the reason why we came to Oldham County was for the schools. I was not able to afford private school for my kids to have the extra time that they need, but Centerfield has the curriculum, the teachers, and the care and the mind to make sure that my kids are seen, heard, and given the time and the respect that they need. I'm here to express a serious concern with regarding to the proposal of LifeWise Academy, a Christian organization seeking to remove students from public school 1 hour a week for religious instruction. While LifeWise claims to approach it legally protected, truth is a little bit more complicated. The U.S. Constitution, specifically the First Amendment, clearly states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. This principle, known as separation of church and state, is a foundational part of our democracy and is meaning to be clarified for decades with the Supreme Court rulings.
In Engel versus Vital in 1962, the court struck down the even voluntary school-led prayer. In Abington versus Shep in 1963, it banned mandatory Bible readings in public schools. Lemon versus Kurtzman in 1971, the court said the government actions must have a secular purpose, must not advance religion, and must avoid excess of entanglement with religious organizations. Even in Zorch versus Clausen in 1952, a case LifeWise cites, the court emphasized that schools could only allow off-site religious release times without school involvement, endorsement, or support. But the reality is, once a school adjusts its schedule, tracks attendance, or even sends home permission slips, it's risking crossing those constitutional lines. LifeWise isn't simply teaching values, it's teaching religion, advancing a specific faith, and dividing students along religious lines on public school time. Let's be clear, every family has the right to raise their children to the faith that they're choosing, but that right does not extend to using our public schools infrastructure time legitimacy to promote religious instruction or of any kind. Public education must remain a place of inclusion, neutrality, and respect for all beliefs, religions and non-religions alike.
30 seconds.
I urge you to consider the legal and ethical social implications of allowing LifeWise and any religious organization into our schools. My children deserve more time in their classrooms with their teachers than being pulled out or having a friend tell them they should be pulled out. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Lehman. And next, after Tim would be Anita, I think it says Davis.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to probably ditch most of what I had prepared because what I've heard is talking about respecting all students and treating all students and providing for all students, and I believe that's one of the things that LifeWise does. My students, my son was a senior in high school, and he was, the curriculum that he was taught was anti-Christian. It was way against the morals that LifeWise is supporting. I will talk about, you know, I drive a Honda, and that's irrelevant to this conversation except for this, that the people who designed that car, they told me that there's certain things that I need to do in order for that car to function. If I want to go someplace, I got to put some gas in it. If I put vegetable oil or water or diesel fuel in there, I'm going to have some really serious problems going on. They tell me I've got to do some things like change the oil and rotate my tires and change my timing belt in order for the car not to be dysfunctional. Well, the leaders of our country who designed our country had some very specific instructions for us too. In fact, they said some very foundational things. John Adams, signer of the Declaration of Independence and the second president of the United States, in a letter to Massachusetts militia in 1798 said, "Our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate to the government of any other." George Washington, in his farewell address, said, "Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness and firmest props of the duties of men and citizen." Benjamin Rush, signer of the Declaration of Independence, ratifier of the Constitution, father of public schools under the Constitution, among other distinctions, said, "The only means of establishing and perpetuating our republican forms of government is the universal education of our youth in the principles of Christianity by means of the Bible." Noah Webster, considered the schoolmaster of America, said, "Evils which men suffer from vice, crime, ambition, injustice, oppression, slavery, and war proceed from their despising or neglecting the precepts contained within the Bible." The LifeWise program is attempting to support the very things our founders said were necessary for the survival of our nation and for the good of its citizenry.
30 seconds.
I'll skip the rest of these and just say I submit to the board that I find really no legitimate reason to deny this program to our students. LifeWise has diligently looked to obey the law, to satisfy the legal requirements. History demonstrates that not only would our founding fathers not object, they specifically required these principles. Program will strengthen our students and our community.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
Anita Davis. And next up would be Gary Crecilius. Anita.
Good afternoon. My name is Anita Davis. I am a proud former district administrator of Oldham County. It was one of the most exciting and honorable things that I ever experienced. I told Superintendent Harold that she was very lucky to be in this district, to be working with such tremendous individuals, and no matter our differences, a great community to work with. So I want you to know that's the background I bring into this. I have over 19 years of experience working with boards, Oldham County boards and Elizabethtown independent boards. I have advised them on curriculum, programming, every type of issue you can talk about. That was my duty. I also want to make it very clear to you that I'm also the daughter of a Baptist deacon, a granddaughter of a Baptist deacon, and my grandfather and my father started a Baptist church that still stands in Meade County today. So when I'm going to talk to you for these few minutes, I want you to know that's all the experience I bring in, all the perspectives I bring into you with this. So I want to go to what I would advise a board, or when I taught graduate classes, because I've had a couple of people in my graduate classes. When we talk about impact as a board, you have three things. As an administrator, you have three things. You have money, you've got people, and you've got time. You got to make the most of them. And I'm not going to talk about the first two. There's never enough money, and there's lots we can talk about with people. But we have to go to time, and we have to think about time. You have to maximize every moment of time. Every minute, every day is instructional time, face time between a teacher and the students. That is the part where you as a board have to be vigilant. I would also say that at the school level. You have to guard that. This proposal, and please realize I was a math teacher prior to being an administrator, so sometimes I go there. This proposal takes 30 hours plus away from Oldham County curriculum, Oldham County instruction.
30 seconds.
30 plus. And I'm doing that just based on, you know, once a week, take a couple weeks off at the beginning and end of school. I'm not even including the amount of time it would take to deal with issues, because we know there will be issues. There will be parent complaints. There will be issues between students that principals are going to have to deal with. So when I say 30 plus, it's actually probably very conservative. So as someone who has been at the building level and at the district level, this is something you must protect.
Gary Crecilius, thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
And after Gary would be Derek. Derek, I'm sorry, I can't read your last name, but no, I got yours. But the next one.
Is it Robinette?
Robinette. Derek Robinette.
I've dealt with that last name all my life.
I got yours.
Well, you did good then. Thank you all. Good evening. I was hoping to be able to say good afternoon to you, but that's not going to happen. So my name is Gary Crecilius, and I'm a resident of Oldham County and blessed to be a grandparent of 10 grandchildren, 3 of whom attend Oldham County schools. And I am wholeheartedly, despite my black slip over, I'm wholeheartedly in support of LifeWise Academy. I think we all respect the right of citizens to voice their concerns over public issues as a part of a free and open democratic society. By virtue of its chosen name, we must assume that Kentucky Citizens for Democracy also respects the democratic process. That process does not always produce the outcome we each desire, for we are a diverse people. So while KCFD may disagree with the outcome, the democratic process has delivered its conclusion on the issue of moral education. Voters elect representatives, representatives vote on laws, and laws become the framework that govern us all. In this case, the legislature spoke clearly by setting forth the path of approval for moral education when they amended KRS 158.200. It is important to note that this amendment was supported by the very representatives chosen by the voters of this county. On the federal level, the highest court in the land has already determined that it is not a violation of the Constitution. As much as we might talk about it here, that has been settled, and it is the protection of parental rights and religious liberty. Here in Kentucky, our legislature reaffirmed this principle, amending the statute earlier this year. Of significance, the law requires school boards to explain only denials, not approvals, of programs that meet the criteria. I think that's important because I believe that's a clear sign of legislative intent. If a program complies, it should be approved. And importantly, that process was not done in a vacuum. It was a result of the democratic process at work. The people of Oldham County elected Senator Tishner and Representative Osborne to represent them in Frankfort. Both of these legislators supported this legislation, and their votes reflect the will of their Oldham County constituents. When they voted in favor of this law, they did so with the full weight of representative government behind them. I specifically do not want to make this about politics, however, because it is not. It is about families, children, and community. In a time when young people face rising challenges, LifeWise offers hope and guidance, helping to form not only educated minds, but also compassionate hearts. And so I close with this. The law is clear, the Constitution is clear, and the legislature's intent is clear. LifeWise is permitted, it's lawful, and it's deserving of your approval. The democratic process has spoken, and we ask that all parties respect the outcome. But beyond the legal framework, let us remember the larger vision.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Derek Robinette. And after Derek would be Hunter Cardwell.
So my name's Derek Robinette. I have a senior at South Oldham. I'm a pastor, but I guess I write like a doctor because you couldn't read my name, so sorry about that. So I think the way I understood what is before us is you all have the option. You may approve this, and I think you all know that as well. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak to that. And so I would ask the question, if this is permissible, beneficial, and does it put a stumbling block before any of our students? It is permissible. You can say yes if you want to say yes to LifeWise. And I've been blessed to meet with the LifeWise leaders, and they are exceptional people with high integrity. The only difference that I found in my faith and theirs is the interpretation of Scripture and the method they are choosing to use. I think if they had a different method, my shirt would be at least pink. Maybe not red, but definitely closer to it. I don't think that LifeWise in approving this is beneficial just simply because of the inerrancy of Scripture which they hold. I think it's inconsistent with the school mission for an inclusive community. A literal word-for-word interpretation of Scripture has really hard news for women, has very hard news for our LGBT communities and families. It has hard news for our Muslim friends, our Jewish friends, our other friends from other religions. And sometimes the interpretation of Scripture that's inerrancy has really hard news for certain Christians as well, too. So I don't think it's beneficial. And I don't think moral and religious instruction during school hours is beneficial because it sets stumbling blocks before our students. Kids go to school once they get on the bus to when they get off the bus. They say, at school today, I learned this. I don't want my daughter to be limited in society because what she learned during the school day. If she feels called to be a preacher, if she feels called to be the president, if women are limited in one place, they will be limited in other places in society. It also provides interruptions during the school day. I've heard amazing efforts that LifeWise is going to make to try to make sure that everything's run smoothly. But LifeWise is going to grow if it's approved. And so if it's approved, it's going to take a lot of your time. How much time have we spent tonight on this?
30 seconds.
As opposed to the other things we talked about earlier. It also could provide some possible hurt that I think is avoidable. What is beneficial? FCA, after school hours. Clubs, after school hours. equipping our kids to go share the love of God by sticking up to the bully, sitting with the kid at the lunch table. Adults don't have to be the ones that share the good news of Christ in the school. Our kids can by showing his love. Thank you.
Thank you. Hunter Cardwell. And after Hunter would be Josephine Giacovino. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hunter Cardwell. I had a chance to speak with you guys back in July. I want to start by saying thank you. I spoke to you back then about the cell phone policy. Nailed it. Great work. Seriously, awesome across the board. I'm here to talk about LifeWise like everyone else. I actually threw away the speech that I had written because a lot of it's already been talked about. And I want to talk actually pivoting from being a community member and parent and actually do something a little risky and talk to you as teacher. I hear a lot of talk about religion in schools, or how there's not religion in schools, or how we shouldn't have no religion in schools, or how the curriculum in schools teaches things that are anti-Christian. I want to share a little bit of what I've seen in 12 years. We are an amazingly religiously diverse community, maybe more than you realize if you haven't been in there. There's a vast diversity of Christian belief, a vast diversity of non-Christian belief. As an educator, I have to be neutral. I can't pick one side or the other. I have my own beliefs, and obviously there are things that I believe are true, but I really can't let that slip to the kids at all. And I have to keep the peace in my classroom because I have state standards I must teach. I am held accountable to those. I must teach those. And I want to share a few examples. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to be the leader of an FCA group at East Oldham Middle School. This came about because we had a situation where there was some unfriendly circumstances to FCA. And it seemed like FCA was, whether or not it was going to continue in that middle school, was really up for debate, right? I'm not Protestant. I don't align with much of FCA at all. However, I recognize that it was an important part of our school's culture and climate, and I wanted to step in there. The reason why this crisis happened was because an FCA student got into an argument with a Catholic student that she wasn't Christian, right? I want to go into, when I was teaching for a while, one of our state standards was the origins of man. Now, of course, this is state standards, so that was teaching the theory of evolution. And I tried a framework that, hey kids, this isn't about me trying to tell you you must believe this as true, but rather you're going to go out into a world in which this theory exists, and you need to understand what the theory is. Whether you accept it or reject it is irrelevant. If you're rejecting it, you need to know what it is because you're rejecting it on the right grounds, and if you accept it, you need to make sure you articulate it well. That was always it. I can guarantee you, every year without fail, I fielded complaints from students in class that were disruptions and from parents, right? I also want to point out, I'll come really wrap it up here really quick. This is a may. You've heard from a few people that the law demands you must do this. The law demands nothing except may. That is in line 1, right? You have the option of closing a Pandora's box of absolutely wildfire in classrooms that would disrupt our rooms, regardless of what LifeWise's maybe good intentions are. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. And next would be Dr. Andy. Dr. Andy, I cannot read your last name either, so welcome.
Good evening. My name is Joe Giacovino. I have lived in this community for 53 years. I went through Oldham County schools from first grade to high school graduations way back when there was only one high school. I'm old. I am here as a concerned citizen whose tax dollars support Oldham County schools. Other speakers have already touched on the increase in bullying towards students who do not participate by those who do in many districts that have already adopted LifeWise, excuse me. So I will skip my words about that. LifeWise has been promoted by several organizations involved with Project 2025, which is a political group which makes LifeWise not a religious or moral education organization, but a political one with a political agenda coming into the school district. I do not want my tax dollars going into bringing a political organization into the school system. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I skipped over one. Reverend Richard. Sir, yes, I'm sorry. I skipped over Reverend Richard. He's actually before Dr. Okay. Thank you.
Joe, I just want to say your dad was one of my favorite all-time people and was good friends with. Joe Giacovino was a principal at Crestwood Elementary School when I was there, and what a fantastic man and a great Oldham County. Yes.
Welcome.
Actually, I'm not a doctor. I have very bad handwriting, and
You are not alone. I'm going to be honest.
thank you, thank you.
Tonight you are.
I am a
Congratulations.
pastor. I am a pastor. My name is Andy Rutro. I'm a pastor of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Have been for 34 years, and I'm a resident of Oldham County. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to speak to the legal issues here, but I have been looking at the Bible occasionally, and my issue here is that when certain views are set forth as biblical, the assumption is that they are the biblical point of view. And while it's been referred to thus far, I think I would like to say clearly that it is not the only biblical point of view. I stand as a hook, line, and sinker Christian. I believe in Jesus. Jesus is Lord. Those of you who don't believe so, I respect you, and maybe we can learn from each other. To say that a particular set of points of view particularly have to do with evolution and the status of queer people and divorced people is a biblical point of view without saying that there are others is a lie. The implication is that there is one biblical point of view, and that's ours. Christianity has always been diverse and always will be diverse, and there are Christians like myself and many Christians in my church and many denominations who are fully supportive of gay and lesbian people, transgender people, who are fascinated with science in general and the revelations about evolution in particular. We see that as a manifestation of the glory of God. Moreover, are we saying by allowing this group into our school that the churches in our county and around our county are not sufficient for our children's spiritual education? Cannot our parents do what they have always done and choose the proper spiritual practice for their children in a church where they have relationships with people that they grow up with? Sunday school. What's the problem with Sunday school, y'all? Come to my Sunday school.
30 seconds.
I don't need any more. That's all right. Yeah. Thank you. God bless you.
On deck would be Robert Lane.
It's Gianzaro. Reverend
Y'all are
Rich.
testing me tonight.
No, it's all good. So my name's Richard Gianzaro. I'm a Lutheran pastor, and I live in Oldham County. I pastor a small church in Indiana, and we have 2 children in Oldham County schools. We just graduated, our senior, and moved him to UK. And right here in this space, through the Arvin Center's Health Sciences program, he found a love for medicine. So I'm proud to report to you that the number 2 high school in the state of Kentucky graduated someone who found a love through our programs for medicine, is now biochem major on a pre-med track at UK. I'm proud to report that to you. I moved here about 5 years ago to accept a call to serve as a pastor in the area, and my wife and 3 of our 4 kids moved to Oldham County. And we chose to live in an Airbnb in Iroquois Park for 4 months because we knew we wanted to be here for the schools. We've been delighted with the teachers. Mr. Cardwell helped my daughter in AP History catch up with some stuff because she's also an athlete, and friendships along the way. I want to tell you a quick story of something that happened on the high school football team 2 years ago. The Fellowship for Christian Athletes rep had moved, and I knew the football coach, and he called me because you might remember that a freshman's stepfather died tragically. And the coach called me and said, "Hey, Pastor Rich, can you come and talk with the guys before the game about grief?" And I said, "Sure." And I came and I did that. And I was really cognizant of the fact that there would be Roman Catholics there. And there would be Orthodox people. I knew there was Jewish kids on the team. And so I came in and I talked a little bit about grief, and it didn't disrupt the school day. And only the kids that wanted to go were there, and they were a team before and after my presentation. I'm standing before you opposed to LifeWise Academy because, as you've heard from LifeWise Academy themselves, and I hope you take the time to read their curriculum, they are seeking and targeting impressionable 4 to 14-year-old children with a dogmatic approach to Scripture. And this is a form of grooming that aims to train children to find suspects among their peers instead of neighbors. It divorces people from the curiosity of knowing the neighbor who is different, and instead takes a meta-narrative or a worldview, this is their language, and says the entire purpose of the Hebrew Scriptures, which are Jewish, by the way, and everything else is to point to one way of living. And it tells Lutheran Christians, Orthodox Christians, Roman Catholic Christians that our baptisms are not valid. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Robert Lane, and after Robert would be Sarah Till.
My name's Robert Lane. I'm just getting rolling on my 9th year as a science teacher at OCMS. Thank you for this time to share. Thank you for your hard work on behalf of students and staff. Thank you for the new phone policy, for the pay raise, and for past Christmas bonuses. OC schools want and need to move from green to blue on our district KDE report card. I doubt that the time and energy spent to implement LifeWise and the distraction it will create in the school day will help with this. Lunch is too short to pull kids for RTRI then. What about during related arts? Given your support as a board of the OC Arts Center, I assume that you understand the great value art, band, choir, and other related arts classes have for our students. Should they miss these opportunities for LifeWise? Also, even if LifeWise claims to focus on the, quote, main and plain basics of Christian morality, will it really help kids from more progressive denominations or Roman Catholic or Orthodox kids, kids whose families are Jewish, Muslim, or Hindu or not at all? What about those kids? Our student body is very diverse. The perspective represented by LifeWise does not seem to be. I believe that it would be much better if local churches take the lead with the implementation of any RTRI. Although RTRI is legally an option for schools, LifeWise is not the way to make it happen. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah. After Sarah would be Chaz Stoss.
My name is Sarah Tew. As a parent of 3 currently in Oldham County Schools and a graduate of OCHS, I'm here to oppose LifeWise programming in OC schools. I am a Christian, but this program's creators hold to a fundamentalist form of Christianity promoted by Southern Baptists that does not affirm LGBTQ families and holds to an inerrant interpretation of the Bible, which includes the belief that women should not hold top leadership positions and a literal interpretation of Genesis that negates scientific evidence. They can say they don't explicitly teach these things, but the type of literalist way of interpreting the Bible that they do teach inevitably leads these students to come to these conclusions. I understand that it is optional, but according to their website, they do incentivize the learning within the program, not to mention the glaring incentive that kids who participate get to miss class, while those who don't must stay. Naturally, even if a parent is uncomfortable with the LifeWise doctrine, their child may wish to participate in order to miss class, receive the incentives, or to not be left out if all their friends are going. This is not inviting choice. This is inviting pressure. At a public school during school hours where students and teachers from diverse religious backgrounds coexist, where separation of church and state should take precedent, this seems wildly inappropriate. It seems highly imposing to push your religion and only yours into a school day that requires other students and teachers who do not share your beliefs to have to make adjustments around. How would allowing this not open the door for other organizations or religious groups to come into our schools making the same request? If a kid participates in this all year, that's a total of 36 instruction hours that are missed. Certified educators go to school for years to earn the right to teach children during a school day. To allow volunteers without certifications to teach a curriculum that doesn't meet state standards doesn't seem wise. When I was a student, my friends and I brought our Bibles into classes and formed prayer groups before and after school and throughout our day. I had my pocket Bible ready to read during breaks in the hallways. I know, I was so cool. I would have jumped at the chance to miss class to attend something like LifeWise, but I think of my Greek Orthodox friend, my Catholic friends, my closeted gay friends, my agnostic and atheist friends who would not have been afforded the same opportunity or felt pressured to conform because they were not of the privileged majority evangelical brand that dominates our locale. And while my young self would not have noticed this disparity and the rift it can cause in a place that's supposed to provide safety and inclusion for all, no matter their backgrounds, my adult self can see how unfair this movement is. Now, I would not be opposed to a general religion course during the school day led by a certified teacher that would incorporate many religions in their sacred texts without imposing a belief system. The educational benefits of that could be amazing, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. On deck would be Monica Dean.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chaz Stess, and I come here today as a concerned citizen of Oldham County. Public schools are there to serve students from many backgrounds and beliefs. Approving programs that promote one perspective excludes others and sends the wrong message about belonging. I swore an oath many years ago to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. I served for nearly 6 years in the Army. I promised to give up to and including my own life in order to keep that document sacred. We blur the lines of that document with this. This is something that I don't agree with personally. Each board member has their own perspective, their own decision to make. And I have come to learn over the years that common sense is not always common. But let's get the distractions out of education in our state, in our county. Why should we continually bombard public education? Why are we continually attacking it? Why are we potentially discriminating against other cultures, faiths, and beliefs that are so prevalent throughout our state and ever apparent in Oldham County? You said yourself, we have many, many, many churches here in Oldham County. LifeWise is a singular expression of Christianity. And in an interview with Senator Tishner, she did with Lance Pearson on Kentucky's Voice from August 8th, both parties kept repeating, let the teachers teach. And I couldn't agree with those words more. Let the teachers teach, but let the students learn, free from distraction and disruption. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica Dean, and on deck is Erin Pike.
Hello, board. I am Monica Dean. I am coming to you as a parent. I have a 4-year-old who will start school next year in Oldham County Schools, so this is deeply important to me. I am really proud of this community for coming together today and being civil, and I know everyone is very passionate about this, and I think that's incredible that we are so serious in our convictions. So I do want to commend everyone here for having those convictions, but I do agree that LifeWise is not the answer in this particular scenario. I think and I did have a whole thing prepared, but everybody said everything, so. But I think the biggest thing to reiterate is precedent in this. If we approve this program, there will be other programs, okay? And how much of our curriculum, how much of our time are we going to allow to be taken away from our students? So I think that's a really big point. I also think that everyone moves, people who move to Oldham County, they move here because of the schools. We've heard it over and over again tonight. And I am one of those people. And my family is Christian. My son, he goes to church sometimes with his grandparents, and I love the idea of, you know, studying religion in a sense of like historical ways and also more than just one. So I'm not against that entirely, but I am against the idea of one program coming in, disrupting the course of the day, and taking away time from the kids in their education. So please vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Pike. And after Aaron would be Mike Bathrick.
This is literally my biggest nightmare is talking in front of people. So, however, I did not plan to bring my. This is part of I'm saying I didn't plan to bring my daughter. It cross country ran late, and here we are. However, I'm using this as an opportunity to show her that girls can do anything, can overcome our fears. We can get up and say how we feel about things, even when it makes us very uncomfortable. Everybody has said how I feel about it. My name's Erin Pike. My daughter goes to Kenwood. I have two more daughters who are 4 and 2, and I care very much about their education and how they grow up, how they view the world, how they care about people, how kind they are to people, how they treat people in general. I think I might be the only person here that is not super religious, but I live my life and teach my kids to live by the golden rule. You teach or treat people the way you want to be treated. You treat everybody kindly. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter where they're from, what kind of religion they are. It doesn't matter. You treat people kindly. I think the idea and the mission of Life Pause is great, teaching character traits, respect, obedience, patience, learn more of that, responsibility. But as a parent, every single day, they'll come home with some different trait that they learn at school. They're called the tiger traits at Kenwood. I know every single elementary school has these character traits and initiatives that they do to teach compassion, teach teamwork, she got the cooperation one 2 years in a row, which she's eldest daughter, so that makes sense. But teach and respect, I think all of these things are learned already in our school. And I actually just got elected to the SBDM Council at Kenwood, and I'm very excited about it because I'm learning a lot already. Had my first meeting today, and I've been trying to listen to teachers more and listen to parents, and I want our community to be the best it can for our kids and to raise the best possible human beings we can. And I don't think a program that teaches kids to think differently of people or think it's a sin to be something that is who they are, I don't think that's okay. So, yeah, and basically what everybody else said. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for responding to my email today. I really appreciate it. And have a good day.
Thank you, Erin.
Thanks.
Mike, and after Mike is Chris Keith.
Mike Bathrick from beautiful downtown LaGrange, Kentucky. And I have no children in the Oldham County schools, but I'm just 78 years old. My wife is just years old, and so there's always a possibility. If we have children, we definitely want them in the LifeWise program. For one reason, well, we're Christians, and the Bible tells us about the Word of God, the Word of teach the Word of God diligently to thy children, and shall talk with them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way or outside of the house, and when thou liest down, when thou risest up. And that covers it all for us Christians. We're to teach the Word of God all the time, no matter where we're at, whether we're in our house, walking by the way, laying down, or rising up in the morning. So because of that, I'm in favor of this program, volunteer program, at no cost to the taxpayers for the sake of future children that my wife and I may have. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you.
I'm guessing he embarrasses you everywhere you go. I'm just assuming that.
Chris Keith and Reverend Jessica Gibo
Hello,
is on deck.
my name's Chris Keith. I was told this was going to be an ice cream social,
Yeah.
and I've been sorely disappointed with the lack of ice cream. So, also want to commend everyone in the discussion. I expected there to be fireworks, and I'm really impressed with our community that we can have this discussion. For the past 20 years, I've dedicated my life and career to the study and teaching of the Bible in university context, in both faith context and non-faith context. In terms of my education, I have a bachelor's degree in biblical studies, 2 master's degrees in New Testament, and a PhD in New Testament. I've published a lot of books and articles. I've won awards in the US, the UK, and Germany for my research. I say that not to pat myself on the back, but to emphasize I'm not opposed to the Bible, Christianity, or religion. I'm also the father of four kids in Oldham County Schools, 2 of them currently at Locust Grove. I'm resolutely against LifeWise Academy in Oldham County Schools. Although I know some people want to fight this ground on the First Amendment or even separation of church and state, and I can understand why. My point is simpler. This is just unnecessary. I do have some concerns with the way they promote themselves. Some of what LifeWise says is not altogether dishonest, but it's less than truthful in ways that parents can recognize. They say they're moral instruction. It's not moral instruction. It's not even generally religious instruction. It is conservative. It is, and the curriculum basis is the Southern Baptist Convention, which can't even claim to speak for all Baptists, much less other denominations. And also, the language about it being a choice. I mean, we all have kids. We know that's not how the structure of choice works for adolescents and teens. That's why it gets promoted with games and snacks and fun and a lesson snuck in like it's a vacation Bible school setting. But I also want to take time to address my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. This is not the kind of leadership that Christ called his followers to in society. Remember the sons of Zebedee, who asked to sit on the right and the left in the coming of the kingdom, thinking they were going to be political positions. They get told that they will not rule over them as do the Gentiles. Instead, the greatest will be least, they will serve, they will be slaves. And we already have this kind of servant leadership from Christians in Oldham County Schools. I think of the many teachers who are practicing Christians who teach in these schools already. I'd like to take the time and energy we're putting into this into raising extra funds for them so that we don't have to lose them to JCPS. I think of Northeast Christian's program of Love the Ville that shows up and cleans the schools and offers principals money to hand out and doesn't do it with strings attached. We already have this type of Christian servant leadership. To the contrary, what's being proposed is like ruling over them like the Gentiles.
Thank you.
Oh, I never heard my 30 seconds.
I said 30 seconds.
Oh,
and
I'm
I
sorry.
waved at you. I did both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. On deck is Karen Soltau.
Hi, thank you. My name is Reverend Jessica Gibo. I'm here not only as a clergy member, but as a parent of a child at Kenwood Station Elementary. I hope to bring a unique piece of information that I really do think that is important for us to discuss. As a professional, clergy member as well as a psychotherapist, all of my decisions as a professional must be based on evidence-based practices. I do not see any evidence-based practices that indicate that the Oldham County Schools lack in moral integrity. I do not see any evidence-based practices that indicate that there is a need for additional instruction based in religious indoctrination. I want to know that you, as professionals, do take into consideration for the whole of our students in this district what would benefit the whole schools. Is there evidence, or is there any evidence that says that the LifeWise instruction improves moral conduct? Is there anything that says that the LifeWise instruction improves literacy rates, testing rates? Does it help broken households? I have not heard or seen any evidence that indicates of the such. I have read some research that says that moral instruction is effective in reducing delinquency, in reducing crime of those who are under 18. I do not see any direct correlation between the LifeWise instruction and that evidence-based research. And so that is why I really appeal to you as you take this into consideration. Look at the statistics, look at the research. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen? Karen, is it Soltau? She left? Okay. Laura Parker? Okay. Tara LeBlanc?
I was editing as I talked, so I didn't retell you guys something
Sorry,
you already.
I did not give you a heads up.
No, that's okay. I was just.
And Rhett Hill, you're on deck.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I'm pretty loud anyways. My name's Tara LeBlanc. I have 3 kids that are in Oldham County School Districts. I have a 3-year-old who will be here in kindergarten in a few years. And I have done a lot of reading. I feel like I'm back in college again. I'm at 20 years out, but I have not done this much research about anything in a long, long time. So having done that kind of reading and research, I'm trying to share some things that are different. And the first that I'm thinking of, so someone else brought up earlier about democracy and how our elected state senator has been a big advocate for this program, also a big advocate for school vouchers last year. So when school vouchers were resoundingly voted down in this state, not just by Kentuckians, but by Oldham Countyans, I got to give them a hustle. It's a quick pivot to another way that we've got taxpayer money that can fund curriculum vouchers. So basically, the students are counted as present, even though they're off campus. The schools, they're still getting credit. And yeah, that's some fast thinking. But my problem is this program isn't just teaching kids moral instruction and the golden rule. These values are already been taught in school. We already talked about that. But what I want to talk about is the money. So there are a lot of funds, and my husband touched on it a little bit earlier, but LifeWise, the revenue went from under $2 million in 2020 to $35 million in 2024, driven by a franchise-style growth model, a national sales force with territory representatives for the country, and a plug-and-play program that makes it easy for communities to put these everywhere. Additionally, they've spent $195,000 since 2023 on lobbying, and a lot of it is to increase RTRI policies so that they can operate further. So what maybe you think, why do I care about that? They're making a lot of money, good for them. But what I think bothers me about it is when I've tried to talk to people in the community about it, I think a lot of people don't realize that it's a business model based on our children in our schools. So we've gotten an organization that has this plug and play, but the community is expected to raise all of the money, fund all of the program. It's $3,000 in startup fees that go to the corporation for a curriculum and some administrative support. And they want to fund themselves, and they suggest 3 years of funding so that it's a strong program, which makes sense. What I think is interesting is that LifeWise Corporate takes 9% of the donations from the community to the corporate. Yes, 9%. On top of that, the allotment of the funds, everything they raise doesn't go straight. They don't have access to it all the time. There's an allotment of money. And the rest of it, LifeWise Corporate invests that, and they give them a fraction of the return. So I know it's almost my time, it's done. Money, I'd encourage you guys to look into the money and the fact that 700 Oldham County residents have signed our petition since we've circulated this month saying they do not want this. Thank you.
Tara. Thank you. Rhett Hill, and after Rhett would be Blaine Anderson.
Good evening. My name is Rhett Hill. My family and I have lived in Centerfield since 2012. We came here like many families do because of the strength of Oldham County Schools. Our oldest son has already graduated, and the other is beginning his high school journey this year. And one thing that has stuck with them both is what they learned at Centerfield: to seek to understand and to find a better way. I come here today to speak out against bringing LifeWise Academy anywhere near our schools or the children in our community. Children should never be pulled during school hours for anything related to religious or moral instruction. This should be left for parents to do on their own time. I ask this of you because my sisters and I, we grew up in a very religious household, and what we now look back on as a cult-like church, a church that pulled us out of school for 2 weeks every October to attend the Feast of Tabernacles. It was 8 days of consecutive church. When we came back to school, we had missed activities, we had missed instruction, we had missed assignments, but most importantly, we missed connection. We were ostracized for being pulled out. When there were holiday celebrations, whether it was Valentine's Day, Halloween, Christmas, even birthdays, our school pulled us out of class and stuck us in the office or put us in the library because our church didn't believe in those things. So I want you to have some empathy and think about this for both sides. Think about the kids who get pulled out and the kids that get left behind. Children already struggle enough, whether they're the athlete or the bookworm or anything in between. Why add another obstacle to their life by pulling them out for religion? That only sets them apart, isolates them, and makes them feel like they don't belong. So please, I implore you, let parents teach religion at home, and let our schools keep doing what they do best at educating our children together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson? No, I'm sorry. You have to have signed up before this. We just have to be consistent with what we've done in the past. I'm sorry. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, though. Welcome, Mr. Anderson.
Well, I guess it's good evening now.
Good evening.
Excuse me. I'm going to change this up just a little bit, if I may. And let me start by saying that as a bus driver, now in my 4th year, the in-service training that you all showed the video and whatnot, if you're in attendance for that, that is something you're going to, remember as long as you are a bus driver. But I also would like to give a little PSA to all of the folks that are in attendance here, which is that I have a lot of confidence in our bus drivers. But every day, every week, we are constantly being faced with distracted drivers. You would be absolutely amazed if you rode in the bus how many times you see cars coming at us that are drifting over the center lane. And by the way, when you're driving on the 22 or the 53 where I drive, there's no shoulder. So my PSA, and we can see, by the way, we can see down into the driver's seat, so we can see what's going on. And yes, folks, your hand is on something else besides the wheel. So do us all a favor, put your phones down. I really don't want to be in an accident because someone hit me head on. And oh, by the way, my company car is bigger than yours. I also heard earlier in the meeting that there was a discussion regarding whether schools were required to be used as a polling location. And as a former member of the County Board of Elections, the reason we have such a smooth running election process is due to the diversity of locations used on Election Day. Of the 9 polling locations used for the primary and general elections, 5 of the 9 are at Oldham Public Schools. Without these schools, our elections would be negatively impacted by fewer polling locations, longer lines, greater driving distances to the polls, etc. While this may not be a concern for the school board, it would have an impact on everyone in the room when it came time to vote. On a separate topic as well, regarding taxation, earlier in the meeting it was noted that the tax rate will remain unchanged. Will you share the year-over-year revenue increase that the flat rate will generate due to increased property valuations? I didn't see it in the packet that was distributed in the agenda, so it'd be nice to see what the flat revenue will, or the flat tax will increase as far as revenue. I also arrived late, again, bus driver, you know how it is, getting those kids home. I'm unsure if a vote occurred on the one-time fringe benefit payment proposed on the agenda. Efforts like this will hopefully help to attract and retain more staff, including bus drivers. I think there was something in the packet said we need something like 10 more bus drivers as
You
well.
have 30 seconds.
Okay.
And we're voting on that after this.
Yep. And if it does receive a positive vote, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of my fellow staff members, school board members. You do not hear thank you enough. And my final comment in my last 30 seconds is, as a certified bus driver for the past 3 years who has passed all background checks, if it works around my schedule, I'd be happy to volunteer my time to drive the LifeWise bus this year if LifeWise is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. That was our final speaker. So thank you all for being here. We really do appreciate the conversation. We're going to move on to action items.
Williams. First item of business underneath action item is 12.A. It's the approval of the amended calendar for the 25-26 year. And so you received 4 options from Mr. Williams, received feedback from building level leadership on the option that was the most beneficial to them in situations that need to be worked out.
Any questions on that?
Can we talk a minute?
Yes,
Because
definitely.
I want to throw out that from the text messages that I was able to send out in between stuff, it looks like a lot of our principals would rather give up the March date than give up the February date.
Yes, we would agree with that.
So that's what we're
the
doing,
option.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, because I think in our
Packet, it was the other way
it
until
was-
he met with staff admin meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Suggestion for March.
And that's what you agree with as well, Ms. Stant?
Okay.
Because it was later in the year, less effective, kind of keeping those early or teacher work days valuable.
Yes, yeah.
If you have the February date, then they can still work towards the end of the year. If you take the March one, it's later in the year, it won't,
Yes.
in theory, have as much of an impact.
Mr. Williams was able to be a part of the staff admin meeting, which was, if today is Monday, it was last Wednesday, and was able to get feedback from building level administration, which prompted, he had already submitted the documentation.
Okay.
That's what prompted a different proposal today.
Just double checking.
So that would mean we would go to school on March 13th, and we would
Come on
be
up.
off on May 19th? Is that
For
correct?
Election Day, yeah.
For Election Day.
Yes.
So we would go to school on March 13th.
Right.
We would be off on May 19th for the election.
Got it.
That was the number one set that I read you, and then it was President's Day after that.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
The teacher workday, would that be the voting day in May, or is that going to?
So teachers can work when we have elections. So we can have teacher workday in the building while school is open as a polling place.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
need to make a motion
So
to
we're just-
amend the calendar to reflect
We're just moving it.
the March
We're just moving it, yeah.
Okay.
contract day to become a student attendance day.
Okay, I will make the motion to move the March 13th teacher workday to May 19th to cover Election Day.
Can I get a second? All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Item 12.B is the approval of the revised BG1 form and award of contract for the South Oldham High School Phase 3 renovation and addition project. You see 2 attachments in there.
Any questions on that? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Henley. All those in favor? All those opposed? And that's 4-1.
Next item is 12.C, the approval of tax rate. And so you'll see that attachment in there. You can see with that, we discussed earlier that we utilize the assessment value that the PVA sends to the state, who then gives us a rate to consider for the district. The 4% rate that we receive from the state is set at 81.3. Last year, it was at 81.2, which means we are staying underneath the 4% rate. All of those things taking in consideration for long-term planning of expansion. Obviously, enrollment will play into that as well when we look at facility and facility upgrades.
Can I get a motion to approve to keep the tax rate at 81.2?
It will actually go to 81.3. Last year it was 81.2, correct?
No, it will stay at 81.2.
Okay.
Yep. The 4%,
Without
right? would-
exonerations.
Do what?
In that table.
Okay. So
Oh,
that's
wait,
listed?
just a minute, okay.
Yeah.
So can I get a motion to approve that we would keep the tax rate at 81.2? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Hunley. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. And then, can I get a motion to approve the motor vehicle tax? We would
Yes.
keep that at 64.3. Made by Ms. Hunley, seconded by Mr. Springer. All those in favor? And that's 5-0. And then the utilities, is that right? So we'll
Yes.
keep the utility rate at 3%. Can I get a motion to approve that? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Mr. Cedillo. All those in favor? And that's 5-0.
Item 12.D is approval of staff incentive. And so last week in our work session, you all were able to look at data when you were able to give staff last year full-time an incentive of $2,000, part-time would have been $1,000. This year, you all have been in discussions, and there's a motion for you all to do a full-time staff incentive bonus of $3,000, and part-time staff would be a stipend bonus of $1,500.
Any questions? No? Can I get a motion to approve? Made by Ms. Sheffer, seconded by Ms. Hunley. All those in favor? 5-0. And we are doing that with our extra carryover money.
Correct.
Yes. And that's our largest stipend yet, right?
So far.
Yes, so very exciting.
And a thank you to our staff.
Absolutely. Wish we could do more. Okay, that wraps up our action items. And left, we have information items. Those are just for under advisement. Executive session.
At this time, I need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C to discuss litigation preparation or defense, the public disclosure of which would jeopardize the board's position, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency, but only when publicity would be likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use or sold by a public agency.
Motion made by Mr. Cedillo, seconded by Ms. Sheffer. All those in favor, and that's 5-0.